Chapter 837. The members of the research ship, who had been captured by the pirates, all looked terrified. This was a civilized society, but now they were facing a barbaric law. Suddenly, a ship appeared out of the darkness. It appeared without any warning. A subordinate approached the big goldfish and said, "Boss, someone is here." Gold-Toothed looked at the ship that had appeared out of the darkness. "Oh, that woman is here. Put down your guns. It is not wise to fight her here." At this time, the other ship approached. A few women jumped over from the other ship. "Honey, why are you here?" Gold-Toothed smiled. He opened his arms to give Gulai a warm hug. Gulai raised his gun and said, "Old bastard, you have 10 seconds to explain why you are in my territory." Gold-Toothed was still smiling. He did not care that Gulai had a gun pointed at him. "Honey, I am not here to hunt in your territory." "Then what is going on with them? Don't tell me they willingly boarded your ship." "They are not prey," Gold-Toothed said with a laugh. "Are you messing with me?" Gulai coldly asked. "I am serious. They are not prey. Look at them. Do they look like rich people? Then tell me who they are." "They are members of a research ship," Gold-Toothed said. "Research ship members? Are you crazy? Why did you come to my territory and capture a group of research ship members?" Gulai angrily shouted. These people would not bring them any benefits. They would bring them a lot of trouble. After all, research ships were worthless targets. They were like porcupines. If they were attacked at sea, it would definitely bring about extremely bad effects. "Don't worry," Gold-Toothed casually said. "I have done a clean job. Their ship has already sunk into the sea. What is your goal?" "I want to find a ruin. That is all." "What ruin?" "The Kamesa ruin." Gulai raised his eyebrows and asked with surprise, "Do they know?" "Someone knows," Gold-Toothed said. "How about it? Let's go together." 73, I'll take 7, Gulai said. "My dear, you're too much. 40 is 60, and I'm 60. I'm the leader here," Gold-Toothed said. 50-50. "After all, you're trespassing on my territory. If you refuse, you'll be declaring war on me." Guri's attitude was unyielding. "All right, 50-50 it is then. You said that one of them knows about the Kamesa ruins? Who is it?" Gulai asked impatiently. "It's an old man, but he's injured. I'm treating him now." "This old man has been to the Kamesa ruins," said the gold-toothed man. "Find out the location as soon as possible." Looking at the starry sky, Qin Zhao and Fei Lai felt like they were in a trance. "Fei Lai, are you still angry?" Qin Zhao asked, hugging her. "Don't talk." Fei Lai looked at the stars. She felt like her entire body was melting. It was too beautiful, so beautiful that one's mind couldn't accommodate any other thoughts. It was an unprecedented scene. No matter how many times he saw it, he would never get tired of its beauty. "What's the brightest star?" "Venus," Qin Zhao said. "What does China call it?" Fei Lai asked curiously. "Chang'e or Venus?" "Our child will be called Qiming in Chinese," Fei Lai said, looking at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao glanced at her. "Then do you know what Venus represents in the Western world?" "Aphrodite," Fei Lai said. "The embodiment of love and beauty in ancient Greece. In Roman mythology, it corresponds to Venus. This ancient Greek goddess is synonymous with promiscuity and infidelity," Qin Zhao said. "I don't want my child to have anything to do with them, even if it's just a name." There was something else Qin Zhao didn't say. In the JD Church, Venus represented the radiant angel, Lucifer. Lucifer was also known as the Star of Dawn, referring to Venus. "Okay. Then what do you think our child should be called?" "We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl," Qin Zhao said. "Let's not think too much. After the child is born and we know its gender, we'll decide what to call it." He didn't want his child to have anything to do with Venus. "Okay. Chen, can you know if the child in my stomach is a boy or a girl?" Qin Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could he tell? You can't even do it in a month, and a child needs at least 3 months to form. Feili, anticipation is the most fascinating thing. This process will keep you thinking about it. Then, when the answer is announced, all your anticipation will be satisfied. So do you want a boy or a girl? Well, a girl, Chen Zhao answered without hesitation. You have Jerlin. Isn't that enough? No matter how many there are, Chen Zhao answered. So you don't like boys? I like girls more, Chen Zhao answered straightforwardly. There was no reason. He just liked girls. What if it's a boy? I'll love him, but not as much as a girl. Don't you all Chinese want a boy to carry on the family line? I don't think that's correct. I also don't think that girls can't carry on the family line. Okay, then I'll pray to God that it's a girl. Feili caressed her stomach. Right now, her face was brimming with motherly radiance. If Chen Zhao was asked when Feili was the most beautiful, Chen Zhao would definitely say now. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, the fishing rod beside them moved, and the bell at the end of the fishing rod let out a crisp and urgent sound. A big guy took the bait. Feili cried immediately. Don't move. Let me do it. Chen Zhao stood up and went to pull the rod. The rod's wheel spun rapidly. The big guy in the water kept pulling the line. Chen, aren't you going to pull the line? Feili asked. I learned this from Laurent. The bigger the fish, the more you can't pull it first, because the fish is at its strongest. If you pull the line now, it might snap. Chen Zhao was indeed strong, but it wasn't impossible for the line to snap. In sea fishing, the process of fighting with a big fish was also a battle of wits and strength. It wasn't a direct contest of strength. One had to release and retract at times. When the big fish was exhausted, Chen Zhao pulled the rod with one hand. He could feel that it was a big guy. Chapter 838. A 3-meter-long swordfish floated in the sea. Chen Zhao pulled on the fishing rod unhurriedly. One had to admit that the fishing rod was really tough. The swordfish was at least 250 kilograms, so its strength in the water was probably 800 kilograms. But the rod didn't break, and the line didn't break either. Chen Zhao's arms were like the sea stabilizer. They didn't move at all. What a big swordfish! Feili exclaimed. Chen Zhao slowly reeled in the line. Feili immediately called the underling over. Get ready. We can eat sashimi tonight. Oh, which one of you knows how to make sashimi? Sashimi was all about knife skills. It wasn't that complicated. Of course, the types of fish were very different. The best sashimi was tuna, but swordfish was also a good choice. Be it swordfish or tuna, the bigger they were, the more delicious they were. Chen Zhao finally pulled the swordfish to the side of the boat. Then he used the harpoon to pull it onto the boat. He cut off a piece of meat from the swordfish's back. This was the swordfish's most developed muscle, as well as its most valuable part. The first piece was for Feili, of course. The underling immediately prepared a dipping sauce for Feili. Actually, the best seasoning for sashimi was wasabi. However, wasabi was too spicy and irritating. It wasn't suitable for pregnant women. These underlings were perversely obsessed with their master's eating habits. They might even know what they wanted to eat better than Chen Zhao and Feili themselves. For example, if Chen Zhao didn't look good in the morning, they would choose to prepare breakfast for Chen Zhao. After Feili got pregnant, she would occasionally eat something she didn't want to eat. The underling would also remind her immediately. Apart from King Kong, who was a pure vegetarian, the other pets wouldn't reject sashimi. Of course, there was one family member that couldn't eat it. It was Blackie. Blackie watched the family eat sashimi and kept muttering, I really want to taste sashimi. Beelzebub, what does sashimi taste like? Carrie, do you taste sashimi like this? King Kong, you can eat it. Why don't you? Mistress, pregnant women shouldn't eat too much sashimi, the underling said. Why? Feili asked, confused. That's because most swordfish have the problem of excessive metal content. Swordfish spend their entire lives swimming, and they often pass through heavily polluted waters, so their food sources are more complicated. Chen, is he telling the truth? Yes, just try one now, Chen Zhao said with certainty. After you give birth, you can eat as much as you want. Just try to eat less now. It wasn't that every swordfish had excessive metal content, but Chen Zhao didn't know if this one had. Generally, the bigger a swordfish was, the older it was, and the larger the sea it had swum through. Therefore, the possibility of it having excessive heavy metals was also higher. For example, in Japan, sashimi is their national dish. Every year, there were hundreds of cases of heavy metal poisoning caused by eating tuna or swordfish, which led to cerebral hemorrhage and stroke. Chen Zhao was also against Fei Lai eating sashimi. But he couldn't completely stop her from eating. Therefore, he still cut a piece. He couldn't eat more. Chen Zhao also had to be responsible for Fei Lai and the child in her stomach. Hearing Chen Zhao's answer, Fei Lai immediately lost her appetite for sashimi. Why didn't you say so earlier? Fei Lai, don't be so nervous. It's not as serious as you think. It's not like you can't eat anything. Professor Ruffalo, I don't need to say more. You should know your situation. I want to know the location of the Kamesa ruins. Gold-Toothed looked at Professor Ruffalo. Professor Ruffalo stared coldly at Gold-Toothed and the pirates. I don't even know how to find the Kamesa ruins. Without any warning, Gold-Toothed raised the gun in his right arm. Without even turning his head, he aimed at the team. No one knew who he was aiming at. Everyone huddled together in fear. Bang! One of the members of the expedition team was instantly hit in the head, and everyone let out a scream. Gold-Toothed didn't care who he hit. He just needed to force Professor Ruffalo to speak. I really don't know. Professor Ruffalo shouted anxiously. Let these kids go. They're innocent. Seeing a team member fall to the ground, Professor Ruffalo's heart bled. Gold-Toothed fired again. Canoris screamed. She was shot in the chest and fell into a pool of blood. I really don't. Before Professor Ruffalo could finish, Gold-Toothed fired again. Another child was killed in front of Professor Ruffalo. What did you say? I. Tears streamed down Professor Ruffalo's face. Don't kill anymore, don't kill anymore. The oldest of the children had been with him for more than a decade. The youngest had only been with him for 2 or 3 years. 1 or 2 hadn't even graduated from university. Boss, how could you bear to kill such a beautiful woman? Benedict looked at Canoris's corpse with a look of pity. Gold-Toothed waved his hand. Wash the deck. 3 corpses were thrown into the sea, but the killing on the pirate ship didn't stop. Gold-Toothed was getting impatient. Professor Ruffalo, I'll ask you one last time. Where's the Kamasa ruins? Professor Ruffalo knelt on the ground and cried. I have a diary left by Professor Charles. Maybe there's a clue. I went through your room. There's nothing. Professor Ruffalo took out his phone. Save it on my phone. Why didn't you take it out earlier? Why did you have to wait until I killed them all? Gold-Toothed shook his head. Lock them up. Ring, ring. Another fish? Chen Zhao was surprised. Huh, is it a dead fish? How come there's no pulling force at all? Chen Zhao felt the pulling force on the rod. It was quite big, but there was no pulling force at all. Chen Zhao started to reel in the rod. In the darkness, something was pulled to the side of the boat. Chen, it's a person, a person! Chen Zhao saw it too. Looking closely, it was none other than Canoris in the water. Chen Zhao dragged Canoris onto the boat. Fei Lai also went up to check. Is she dead? Chen Zhao checked. She's still breathing weakly, but she's not far from death. Can you save her? Chapter 839. Canoris opened her eyes slowly, but she fainted again due to her weakness. After some time, Canoris woke up again. This time, she was woken up by a tongue. Canoris turned around and saw a huge bear licking her face. After screaming, Canoris calmed down very quickly. Princess? Canoris started looking around. Wasn't this a pirate ship? Just then, Fei Lai walked in. Canoris, are you awake? You saved me? Chen saved you, Feilai said. What happened? We were betrayed. Benedict, the asterisk shoal who harassed you, colluded with pirates and attacked us. Pirates? Pirates robbed your research ship? Feilai was confused. If pirates wanted to rob someone, they would rob a cargo ship. Did the pirates have nothing better to do than to rob the scientific research ship with such little supplies? Can you call the police for me? Sorry, there's no signal, Feilai said. After we entered this area yesterday, the signal seemed to have been completely blocked. This area? Where are we now? I don't know. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Aren't you going back to LA? Not for now, Feilai said. We're here for a vacation. With Feilai's help, Canoris walked out of the cabin. The sky was a bit dark today. There were some dark clouds, but it didn't rain. Canoris saw Chen Zhao fishing on the deck. Hi, Mr. Chen. Hi, Canoris. Are you okay? Not very well, Canoris replied weakly. Okay. If you don't feel well, you can lie down inside. Mr. Chen, it's very dangerous at sea. There's a pirate ship cruising on the sea. The sea is so big. It won't be easy to meet them, Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. Mr. Chen, I'm not joking. These pirates are all cold-blooded criminals. If you meet them, you won't be able to survive. Feilai looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's expression was still as calm as ever. Pirates? I know pirates too. I should be able to help. Canoris was speechless. She did not know where Chen Zhao's confidence came from. This was not a civilized society. Once they encountered those vicious outlaws at sea, they would definitely die. Mr. Chen, regarding my suggestion, please consider it carefully. I've thought about it. It's rare for Feilai and I to come out for a vacation, so we hope to finish it. Canoris didn't understand why Chen Zhao was so obsessed with vacations. Besides, my luck is pretty good. I won't be so unlucky as to encounter pirates. Chen, there's a ship over there. Feilai pointed in the distance. A ship entered their field of vision. Pirate ship! It's a pirate ship! Canoris' expression changed. She would never forget the silhouette of that ship even if she died. It was that ship. They had attacked the research ship. Our luck seems to be a little bad recently, but it doesn't matter, they won't come to us. Boss, there's a yacht over there. The gold-toothed man picked up his binoculars. Feilai, what a beautiful yacht. It must belong to someone rich. Feilai? Benedict's eyes brightened. Boss, there's a woman on that yacht. She's really pretty. Really? Send them a message and trick them to stop. Pirate ships usually didn't attack directly when they hijacked their prey. Most of the time, they would use deceptive methods. They would approach them first, and then attack after boarding the ship. Hi, our ship has some problems. Can you give us some help? The pirate ship sent a message to Feilai. Sure. If you catch us, we'll help you. Feilai replied to the pirate ship. Fuck, they know who we are. The gold-toothed man looked at the yacht. Chase them. Boss, they're really fast. We can't catch them. The gold-toothed man's face darkened. Just then, a voice came from the communicator again. Can't catch them? Do you want me to slow down? Boss, they're slowing down. Damn asterisk's holes, how dare they trick us? The gold-toothed man was a tyrant at sea. He had never been tricked like this before. Picking up his binoculars, the gold-toothed man looked at the yacht 3 nautical miles away. There was a person standing on the deck of the yacht. He was gesturing at them, giving them the middle finger. Chase them. We have to catch them. I'm going to tear them into pieces. But boss, even if they slow down, they're still faster than us. Contact Goulent and tell her to stop them. Boss, there seems to be a strong magnetic field in this area. We can't use long-distance communication. Canoris looked at Chen Zhao. She was speechless. Not only did Chen Zhao not run when he saw the pirate ship, he even slowed down on purpose to trick the pirates. If something happened and the pirates caught up, what would you do? Mr. Chen, I think we should get rid of them as soon as possible. This isn't a fun game, Canoris said. If the pirates catch up to us, both you and Fei Lai will be in danger, Canoris said. Fine, let's speed up. Chen Zhao shrugged. He didn't want to come into contact with the pirates either. After all, if he did, it would definitely damage Fei Lai. He really treasured his and Fei Lai's yacht. He didn't want to damage Fei Lai because of this. After Fei Lai sped up, Canoris finally let out a sigh of relief. This yacht was indeed incomparable to a regular ship. It was probably as fast as a warship. Fei Lai's value wasn't just in the hull and the luxurious decorations. It also had its own technology. That was why it was so expensive. Once Fei Lai sped up, the pirate ship could only watch helplessly as Fei Lai left. Mr. Chen, what's your final destination this time? A place called Kamesa Island, Chen Zhao said. Canoris suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with shock. You're going to the Kamesa ruins? Huh! You know about the Kamesa ruins? Chen Zhao looked at Canoris in surprise. Professor Ruffalo once told me about the golden curse on it. Ah, Chen, is that really a treasure map? Fei Lai exclaimed in surprise. I don't know. Chapter 840. How about we go back now and take care of those bastard pirates? Chen Zhao asked. Canoris was about to pee her pants. Were they brave or stupid? Forget it. Don't waste it on those pirates, Fei Lai said. I want the gold. Fei Lai, the gold is cursed by an evil spirit. Canoris looked at Fei Lai worriedly. Fei Lai glanced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged nonchalantly. I'm not afraid of any shit curses. To Fei Lai and Canoris, these words had a completely different meaning. Canoris thought that Chen Zhao didn't believe in curses. Fei Lai understood Chen Zhao's true meaning. Chen Zhao wasn't afraid of curses. As long as he wasn't afraid, all problems were no longer problems. For the rest of the time, everything was calm and peaceful. Canoris realized that Chen Zhao and Fei Lai didn't care about the cursed gold, or the pirates at all. She really didn't want to die with them. But what could she do? Ask Chen Zhao and Fei Lai to give her a boat and let her escape. Alright, Fei Lai did have a motorboat, but she wouldn't be able to return to the shore alive with just this motorboat. This wasn't the coastal waters. They'd entered the international waters long ago. What pained her the most was that Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were still showing off their love in front of her. Canoris looked down and realized that Jerlin was tugging at her pants. Smiling bitterly, Canoris picked Jerlin up. Guret's team met up with Gold-Toothed again. Darling, did you miss me? Gold-Toothed still smiled and went up to hug Guret. Guret aimed his gun at Gold-Toothed's head as usual. If you touch me again, I'll kill you. How can you bear to kill me? Gold-Toothed chuckled. This ocean seems a bit strange. Ha! We're all descendants of pirates, Gold-Toothed said. We should be used to this already. I have a bad feeling. Please don't say such depressing words before we find the Kamasa ruins. You should think about how we'll enjoy the gold after we find it. Buy a private island, Guret said. Is this our new home? The Gold-Toothed man asked. Gulai glanced at Gold-Toothed but didn't say anything. She had known Gold-Toothed for a long time and knew what kind of person he was. The Gold-Toothed man was holding a strange compass, and the needle on the compass started jumping crazily. The interference of the magnetic field is getting stronger. Looks like it's another cursed island. Guret looked into the distance. I hope we can successfully obtain the gold. Island! Island, there's an island ahead! Fei Lai exclaimed. Canoris heard the cry and immediately came out of the cabin. Chen Zhao also looked up at the island in the distance. Dark clouds covered the sky above the island, and darkness enveloped the entire island. Fei Lai, why don't you stay on the boat? I'll go to the island alone. Fei Lai had already put on her equipment. She looked at Chen Zhao. His eyes were clearly filled with unwillingness. Forget it. Chen Zhao scratched his head and said helplessly. But it's getting dark and the weather on the island isn't good. Let's wait until tomorrow morning. Just as the Phalai stopped 2 kilometers away from the island, 2 ships appeared behind it. Pirates! Pirates are here! Oh no! We're doomed. We have nowhere to run. Haha. I finally caught them. Gold-Toothed looked at the boat parked before the island and couldn't stop smiling. Gurette picked up the binoculars. Instantly, her expression changed. Phalai! She would never forget that yacht. And the owner of the boat. Gurette's eyes flashed. Then, she glanced at Gold-Toothed beside her. I'm going back to my boat, Gurette said. Gold-Toothed didn't notice Gurette's expression. He thought that she was preparing to go to the island and didn't take it to heart. Gold-Toothed's boat stopped beside Phalai. Connorus's face paled in fear. Gold-Toothed was also surprised to see Connorus on the deck. You're not dead? Great. After killing you yesterday, I regretted it. It's such a pity that such a beautiful woman died. Connorus trembled slightly. She didn't dare to say anything. Gold-Toothed looked at Qin Zhao. Kid, you were the one who played with me, right? Why aren't you running now? Played with you? No, did I? I don't remember. Qin Zhao didn't seem to care. Boss, look at that woman. Isn't she pretty? Benedict asked, pointing at Phalai. It's indeed beautiful. The gold-toothed man whistled and grinned. Qin Zhao looked at the other pirate boat beside Gold-Toothed's. Hello. Gurette, did you miss me? Gurette looked at Qin Zhao calmly. No. You're with him? Qin Zhao asked. A temporary team, Gurette answered. As expected, the most troublesome situation had occurred. You're also here for the gold on this island? Kid, you know there's gold on this island? Gold-Toothed was surprised. Not only did Qin Zhao know Gurette, but he also knew that there was gold on the island. Ignoring Gold-Toothed, Qin Zhao said to Gurette, Kill him and I'll give you 20% of the gold. Haha. Gold-Toothed laughed. This kid still didn't understand the situation, right? Connorus's face was also filled with despair. She didn't think that Qin Zhao would say something so stupid. We'll split 50-50. Gurette answered calmly. Then I'll give you 30% at most. That's enough. Gurette was silent for a while. I want 40%. Gold-Toothed was stunned. Connorus was too. What was going on? He didn't want 50%, but 40%? Did they have something going on? Gold-Toothed turned to Gurette. Gurette, what's the meaning of this? Gold-Toothed, I'm sorry. I don't want to be his enemy, so our cooperation ends here. Connorus's face was filled with shock. How did the situation suddenly change? What exactly was going on? If you don't want to be his enemy, I'll kill him with one shot. Are you going to fight me for a dead man? That's the problem. If it can be solved with one shot, it's not a problem anymore. All of Gurette's pirates pointed their weapons at Gold-Toothed's ship. Similarly, all of Gold-Toothed's pirates pointed their weapons at Gurette's ship. Hurry up and fight. I haven't seen people fight at such a close distance. Chapter 841. Suddenly, Benedict shot at Phalai and little Jerlin in her arms. Before anyone could react, Qin Zhao blocked the bullet with his hand. The deformed bullet fell to the ground. Everyone stared at Qin Zhao in shock. Qin Zhao turned to Phalai. Phalai, take Jerlin back to the cabin. Okay. Phalai knew that she and Jerlin would only become targets here. He blocked the bullet with his hand, right? Did I see it wrong? Did he block the bullet with his hand? Still smiling, Qin Zhao gestured at Benedict to shoot. Gurette, I changed my mind. I want. Roar! King Kong suddenly descended from the sky, jumping from the Phalai onto the pirate ship and right in front of Benedict. Dadada! The surrounding pirates all aimed their machine guns at King Kong and started shooting wildly. But the bullets couldn't penetrate King Kong's body at all. Benedict almost peed his pants in fear. He fell to the ground on his butt. Facing this terrifying giant beast, no one had the courage to stand before it. King Kong was extremely furious. Its respect for Fei Lai was irreplaceable. In Qin Zhao's house, Fei Lai was the one who protected it wholeheartedly. But Fei Lai was being attacked. No one could understand its anger. King Kong, let me finish. Qin Zhao was unhappy that King Kong interrupted him. King Kong looked at Qin Zhao, then pointed at Benedict, and then at itself. It meant, this guy is mine. Canoris's face was filled with shock. That really wasn't an ordinary mountain gorilla. Mountain gorillas weren't bulletproof. The bullets that hit its body were like tickles to it. Burette's eyes were also filled with shock. She knew how powerful Qin Zhao was. But she didn't expect that even Qin Zhao's pet was so terrifying. Whatever. Do it. Receiving Qin Zhao's order, King Kong smiled cruelly. Fuck. Gold-Toothed pointed his gun at King Kong's head and fired. King Kong's head didn't even move. He turned to look at Gold-Toothed. The huge arms swept across angrily. Gold-Toothed's body shattered like a sand sculpture. King Kong smashed his arms on the ground, and with a loud bang, the entire pirate ship shook violently. A dent was smashed into the deck. King Kong leaped high and grabbed the pirate ship's antenna. King Kong's power was second only to Qin Zhao's, but it was still monster level. Each of its strikes had a destructive force of 10 to 20 tons. The entire pirate ship was torn apart by it. As for Benedict, he didn't know what to do. He was not dead yet. Perhaps King Kong wanted to kill him in the end. King Kong, throw him into the sky with all your strength. I want to see how high you can throw him. King Kong stood on the pirate ship that had become scrap metal and grabbed Benedict with one hand. Benedict cried, begging for Qin Zhao's forgiveness and for someone to save him. But no one could save him. After King Kong gathered his strength, he suddenly threw Benedict out. What would be the effect of dozens of tons of force acting on a person? Benedict flew higher and higher. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters. At the apex, Benedict began to fall. Falling from that height, no matter what was below, would shatter him into pieces. Even if Qin Zhao fell from that height, he would be smashed into pieces if he didn't take any precautions, let alone Benedict. Canoris finally understood why Qin Zhao had always been so knowledgeable. It turned out that he had raised such a monster. This was a monster through and through. The pirates who were still fine flopped on the surface. King Kong jumped back onto Fei Lai. Quick, save the professor! Canoris suddenly exclaimed. Professor Ruffalo was also flopping on the surface. Qin Zhao threw a rope and pulled Professor Ruffalo onto the ship. You're welcome. Professor, how are you? Canoris asked. Canoris, you're not dead? Yes, Mr. Qin saved me. What just happened? Why did the pirate ship suddenly sink? Professor Ruffalo had been in the cabin the whole time, so he did not know what had happened outside. Where are they? Barty? Arthur? Canoris asked. Are they still on the pirate ship? Professor Ruffalo lowered his head, his expression heavy and sorrowful. They're all dead by that Gold-Toothed. Where's that asterisk shoal? Where's that asterisk shoal now? Professor Ruffalo suddenly became indignant and hateful. And Benedict? Benedict's over there. Canoris pointed at the floating corpse. Gulai and her team were also a little frightened by King Kong at this moment. They did not dare to imagine what would have happened if Gurette did not know Qin Zhao. If Gurette had chosen to fight Qin Zhao, what would the result be? I suddenly feel a little unsatisfied that I killed that asterisk shoal so easily. Qin Zhao looked at King Kong. You stole my joy of revenge. King Kong looked at Qin Zhao with a wronged expression. Master, you agreed to it yourself. Canoris and Professor Ruffalo were both very sad. After all, their companions had all died. But they could not do anything. The only thing that comforted Professor Ruffalo was that Qin Zhao had avenged him. Gurette came to Qin Zhao's ship. Professor Ruffalo, you've been here before, right? Qin Zhao asked. This place. Why are you here? Professor Ruffalo had long discovered that this was Kamasa Island. It had once been his nightmare. For the gold? Qin Zhao said honestly. No, it's for a vacation. Because Fei Lai had already walked out, Qin Zhao had to answer truthfully. Mr. Chen, the gold here is full of misfortune. You shouldn't come here. Professor Ruffalo's kind personality started acting up again. I've been here before, so I know better than you how scary the gold here is. That's not a problem, Qin Zhao said. I'm more concerned about how much gold there is on this island. Do you really want to take the risk on the island? I'm already here. Do you think I'm joking with you? Professor Ruffalo told Qin Zhao about his experience. The gold in the Kamasa ruins is hidden at the top of the highest mountain. How much is it worth? A lot, about 100 tons. Qin Zhao gasped. Are you sure it's that much? Chapter 842. Is there any danger on the island? Qin Zhao asked. Danger? When our team first came to the island, it was like we changed into different people. We fought and fought. I think there's a demon on the island that can bewitch people. Qin Zhao glanced at Guret. I hope you and your men can stay calm. Qin Zhao's words clearly had a hidden meaning. Guret also understood. Whether it was herself or Qin Zhao, if anyone was bewitched, the result would be disastrous. Don't look at me, Qin Zhao said matter-of-factly. I can't be bewitched. You can't defeat the demon's power, Professor Ruffalo said. Guret looked at Qin Zhao. She knew that since Qin Zhao said this, he must be confident. After all, Qin Zhao was someone who'd actually killed the demon. The next day, everyone landed on the island. The sky above Kamasa Island was covered in dark clouds. Chilly winds blew on the island too. What made Professor Ruffalo and Kanoris speechless was that Qin Zhao actually let Fei Lai and little Jerlin go on the island too. Not a single one of Qin Zhao's pets was left out. Is there a demon's aura on the island? Qin Zhao asked, carrying Samuel. I can't feel it. Mr. Qin, after you. Guret didn't want to go first. Everyone entered the coconut forest. The ground was covered in low weeds and some mud. It was very uncomfortable to step on the ground. Suddenly, one of Guret's men screamed. Without any warning, he was dragged down. A crocodile! Guret's men immediately opened fire to save her. She was saved, but her calf was seriously injured. She couldn't walk alone. Just then, another 2-meter-long crocodile jumped out of the grass. Guret reacted quickly. He pulled out his gun and shot 3 times in a row. The crocodile died instantly. Do you need help? Qin Zhao asked. No, Guret said. Leave this small problem to us. Fine. Qin Zhao pulled Fei Lai and took a step back. Everyone didn't understand what Qin Zhao meant. At this time, there was still a rustling sound coming from the grass in front of them. They could vaguely see many black shadows in the grass. Crocodiles. A horde of crocodiles. Some of the crocodiles were 3 to 4 meters long. The leading crocodile king was more than 7 meters long. It was much bigger than a betos and twice as heavy as a betos. It was probably the same size as the princess. These were all bay crocodiles, the largest reptile in the world. Gulf crocodiles could adapt to both saltwater and freshwater environments. Guret's expression darkened. He turned to look at Qin Zhao. Qin, I only want 30%. If she didn't lower the price now, she would suffer heavy losses. Although her team had automatic weapons, there were too many of these crocodiles. Moreover, the thick shell of the Gulf crocodiles was very resistant to small-caliber firearms. Mid-caliber firearms could barely penetrate their shells, but it was still difficult to cause fatal damage. With so many saltwater crocodiles and that gigantic beast, they would definitely be able to annihilate their entire team. Children, it's time to eat! The princess and King Kong howled and rushed forward. She dashed towards the crocodile king. The crocodile king wanted to bite the princess, but the princess slapped it with her claws. The crocodile king was stunned. King Kong grabbed the crocodile king's tail while princess's claws dug into the crocodile king's head and neck. The crocodile king struggled to break free, but facing princess and King Kong, 2 monsters of strength, it was powerless. Everyone exclaimed. The Crocodile King's body was torn apart. Its intestines and organs were everywhere. Black Ma, White Ma, Abitos, and White Snow all rushed forward. This wasn't an evenly matched battle. It was a one-sided massacre. Connorus was already disgusted by the smell of blood. On the other hand, Walter stayed by Phalai's side. He wasn't weak either. However, Walter preferred to protect Phalai instead of rushing forward to kill. Seeing that they couldn't win and that even their boss had been killed, the crocodiles didn't dare to fight anymore. They turned and ran. "Stop chasing," Qin Zhao called. "They're protected animals. You've killed more than half of them and now you're thinking about protected animals?" Everyone rested where they were. Qin Zhao helped the injured female pirate bandage her wounds. "You didn't tell me that there are crocodiles on this island," Qin Zhao said to Professor Ruffalo. Ruffalo looked at Qin Zhao helplessly. "I didn't know we'd encounter crocodiles." Qin Zhao furrowed his brows. "How far is the treasure?" "It's on that mountain." Professor Ruffalo pointed to a mountain not far away. "We've rested enough," Qin Zhao said. "Let's go." They continued on their way. When they reached the foot of the mountain, Qin Zhao looked back at Phalai. "Phalai, leave Jerlin to me. Are you tired?" "Qin, I'm not even a month pregnant." "Okay. Tell me if you're tired. We'll rest here." "Okay." There were traces of a man-made road on the mountain. It was winding and rugged, but it was still walkable. Qin Zhao reached out a hand. "Phalai, hold me. Don't fall." Phalai looked up at Qin Zhao. She wasn't tired. She wasn't tired, but she knew that Qin Zhao was still worried about her. She couldn't help but feel warm inside. "You just need to take care of Jerlin. I can take care of myself. Hold me." Qin Zhao stared at Phalai unrelentingly. Phalai couldn't change Qin Zhao's mind. If she didn't reach out, Qin Zhao wouldn't leave. Helplessly, Phalai could only hold Qin Zhao's hand. "Phalai, how about we buy an island when we're rich in the future? When we're free, we can take a vacation there and invite friends and family to our private island." "Actually, your current wealth is enough to buy an island," Phalai said. Normally, an island was only a few $1,000,000. However, it wasn't big. It was probably smaller than Mirror Lake. The team's journey was peaceful. They didn't encounter any danger. They went straight to the top of the mountain. There was a cave there. Everyone looked at Professor Ruffalo. "The gold is in the cave. Where's the relic? Where's the bewitching curse?" Qin Zhao said in disappointment. "Why didn't anything happen?" "I'm disappointed." "Qin, how much do you want something to happen?" Everyone entered the cave. In an instant, a burst of golden light blinded everyone's eyes. The entire cave was covered in gold. But at this moment, Samuel said something that dampened the mood. "So much demon gold. And it's been cursed with the spirit of speech," Beelzebub said. "It wasn't gold. It was demon gold." "Phalai, we might have come here for nothing." "Why?" Phalai asked, confused. "Can't we take the gold?" "Yes." Qin Zhao could resist curses. Phalai had a little demon to protect her, and Jerlin also had a little angel to protect her. The three of them were extremely effective against curses. He couldn't do anything about the spirit of speech. Of course, the most important thing was that demon gold looked very similar to gold. Chapter 843. Not only was it worthless demon gold, but it was also enchanted with spiritual words. To get a piece of demon gold, one had to kill 3 people. Then, the other person's luck would be transferred to them. "Phalai, don't touch the gold. Let's go." Qin Zhao turned to leave. Phalai couldn't move. She seemed to have been bewitched. Qin Zhao slapped Phalai's face. She froze for a moment, then came back to her senses. Covering her face, Phalai stared at Qin Zhao. Tears were about to fall out. That... It was Qin Zhao's first time hitting Phalai. He had never thought that he would hit her. The first gunshot rang out. The killing had already begun. Including Professor Ruffalo and Canoris, they were also in battle. Everyone was bewitched. They started killing each other crazily. Canoris grabbed a piece of demon gold and smashed it hard on Professor Ruffalo's head. Phalai, let's go. With a serious expression, Phalai turned to leave. The sounds of fighting in the cave lasted for a long time. When everyone walked out of the cave, they were all covered in blood. They had gradually woken up from their madness. Canoris held a piece of demon gold in her hand. She had a faint smile on her face. There were either tears or blood at the corners of her eyes. Another person walked out, also covered in blood. Then Gurette walked out. She was very clean, but she held a bloody piece of demon gold in her hand. The people who walked out were all very calm. The sorrow in their bodies and hearts made them unable to summon any strength to fight. Qin Zhao looked at them and frowned. This wasn't a relic. It was a trap. Chun, was I like them just now? Phalai asked. Does it still hurt? Qin Zhao looked at Phalai with heartache. He had never thought that he would hit Phalai. A little. Including Canoris and Gurette, there were 5 people who came out. Canoris was the weakest. She couldn't stop crying. She knew what she had done. She couldn't control the fear and sorrow in her heart. She had actually killed the most respected Professor Ruffalo with her own hands. On the way down, no one spoke. Chin, why didn't they take more gold? They can't afford it. Canoris stayed on Gurette's pirate ship. She could no longer return to land. After all, she had killed Professor Ruffalo. Qin Zhao and Phalai also started their journey back. However, he didn't understand why Vanity would give him the map. What kind of mentality did she have when she handed this thing over to him? Without a doubt, this was definitely not something good. Vanity wanted to use this to frame him? It didn't seem to make sense. She should have understood that this kind of trap wouldn't be able to kill her. Instead, it would make him hate her. Citibank Irvine headquarters. Mr. Churchill, thank you for coming. Amira shook hands with Churgis. Please come in. After 2 days, Amira finally made an appointment with Churchill. Compared to TV, Churgis looked fatter in real life. Churchill, who had kept his sunglasses on, rubbed his nose. I'm not going in. What? Why? Churgis looked up at the outer layer of the building and shook his head. This place is filled with misfortune. Misfortune? Amira's expression changed slightly. Mr. Churgis, what did you see? Misfortune? Amira looked at the building. She didn't sense anything. Okay, Ms. Amira, Churgis said. I should go now. Mr. Churgis, please wait. Amira hurriedly stopped him. Ms. Amira, you want me to help you solve something in this building, right? Amira nodded. Yes, Mr. Churgis. What did you find? Please tell me the truth. Depraved, dark, gloomy, filthy, and filled with evil. This is an evil spirit. It's killing people. Suddenly, a person descended from the sky and landed beside Churgis and Amira. Amira was scared out of her wits. At this moment, she finally believed it. She believed the ghost. She believed Churgis's words. Mr. Churgis, please help me get rid of the evil spirit here. Please help me. I don't care how much it costs. Churgis looked at the corpse. A moment later he said, $100,000. Okay, no problem. When? Amira asked. Tonight at 12. Tonight? The bank isn't open at night, Amira said. Then I can't help you. Please find someone else, Ms. Amira. Wait. I'll think of something. Tonight? Churgis nodded and turned to get into his MPV. His manager, Chadwick, was in the business class. Chadwick, this is bad. There really is an evil spirit in this building. Just now, someone jumped and fell right in front of me. What should I do? What should I do? Churgis showed his true colors as soon as he returned to the car. At this moment, Churgis didn't look calm at all. His face was full of panic. Churgis, calm down. Don't be so excited. This is all fake. It's just a coincidence. Chadwick comforted Churgis. There are no evil spirits or demons in this world. It's just what those idiots made up. But I really don't feel well. Let's give up on this deal. How can you do that? Think about it. That's $100,000. Are you willing to give it up? Chadwick said calmly. Think about it. How many times have you encountered similar situations in the past? When did an evil spirit really appear? The clients were just scaring themselves. Chadwick and Churgis had been working together for 4 years. Chadwick was a down-and-out manager, while Churgis was a fraud. They first met when Chadwick asked Churgis to tell his fortune. Churgis didn't get it right, so they fought. Later, the two inexplicably worked together. Chadwick was responsible for promoting Churgis, telling people that Churgis was a very powerful spiritualist. As time went by, Churgis became more and more famous. Even TV stations asked him to appear on their shows. Churgis was also very conflicted. If he gave $30,000 to Chadwick, he would still get $70,000. It wasn't a small amount. Usually, a deal would be a few thousand at most. Just do a few mysterious things like before, then tell the woman that you've driven the evil spirit away. You'll get the money. That simple? Chapter 844. Mr. Churgis, I'm at the entrance of the bank. Are you there? Amira asked, holding the phone. I'm here. Churgis walked out of the darkness. Amira was startled. Mr. Churgis, why are you here? Sure, keep your voice down. Churgis made a shushing gesture. It had to be said that this way of appearing gave off a strong sense of mystery. It would also make his clients more convinced of his identity. In fact, this was all prepared for him by the team behind him. Under the night sky, covering himself with a piece of black cloth and then suddenly putting it away could easily create the illusion of a sudden appearance. Come with me. I'll take you in. This was a bank, after all, even though Amira was not taking Churgis to the business office. Without her leading the way, Churgis would never be able to enter. Amira led Churgis into the bank and glanced at him. Which floor are we going to now? The 13th floor. In China, many buildings would avoid the 4th floor and directly remove it, especially in some residential areas. In foreign countries, most people avoided the 13th floor, and the way they did it was the same as in China. There's no 13th floor, Amira said. No, there is. I can feel it. It's hidden on the 13th floor. Amira frowned. Are you sure there's a 13th floor in this building? Or are you talking about the 14th floor? Yes, the 13th floor. Of course, Chioji hadn't become so famous just by relying on his glib tongue. Every time he accepted a commission from a client, he and Chadwick would investigate the client. Take Amira, for example. They had investigated her beforehand. That was why they only accepted Amira's commission on the 3rd day. They knew what had happened in the building in the past month. They also knew the basic information of the building. Of course, the so-called basic information was not something that ordinary people would notice. For example, there were actually 13 floors in this building. However, the elevator did not reach them because the 13th floor was designed as a water supply room. Let's go to the 12th floor first, Churgis said calmly. When they reached the 12th floor, Churgis tapped his forehead with his finger. It's close, I can feel it. This way. On the 12th floor, Churchill twisted and turned until he came to a closed door. Do you have a key? Churchill asked. No, I didn't even know there was a door here. Amelia was the general manager, and she was in charge of the entire building. How could she possibly care about the keys? What's more, most of the building was equipped with electronic locks. The business hall below had an even higher level of defense, and the vault below the business hall had a nuclear level of defense. It's okay. Chu Jis touched the lock and pulled it. The iron lock was unlocked. How did you do it? Amelia asked in surprise. Behind the door was a staircase. Amira did not know that there was such a staircase here, and it only went up, not down. When they arrived at the 13th floor, the entire floor was soaked wet. He could only vaguely hear the sound of water dripping. The lighting was also very dim, giving people a very uncomfortable feeling. Churgis suddenly waved his hand. Stop. Amira immediately stopped. Churgis said, I'm not talking to you. Didn't I tell you? All of a sudden, Churgis spilled a cloud of powder. The moment the powder came into contact with the air, it exploded. A woman's scream came from the originally quiet floor. Amira was startled, and her face turned pale. What's going on? What just happened? It's fine now, Churgis said indifferently. There was a woman's lingering resentment here, and I've completely eliminated it. Is it done? Yes, it's all done. There won't be any more problems. Churgis looked confident. Thank you. I'll transfer the payment to you. Amira's body and mind immediately relaxed. It was finally done. Just as the two were about to leave the 13th floor, a cry came from behind them. Both Amira and Churgis broke out in cold sweat. There's more? Amira turned her head stiffly to look at Churgis. Churgis turned back to look at the room. Beside the water tower, in a dark place, there was a woman in white with her hair draped over her shoulders, huddled in a corner. The woman was the one who was crying. Churgis gulped. Suddenly, the light in the water room dimmed. Then, it lit up again. But at that moment, a horrifying face appeared in front of Amira and Churgis. It was a bloodless face, but its eye sockets were empty and completely dark. Ah! Both Amira and Churgis screamed in fear. Eliminate her! As soon as Amira turned around, she saw Churgis sprinting towards the ground. Ah! Only then did Amira realize that Churgis was not a spiritualist, nor did he know how to exorcise demons. Amira also ran out of the 13th floor and chased after Churgis. You liar! Liar! Churgis ran to the elevator on the 12th floor and pressed the button frantically. He was scared, really scared. The mission was no longer important. He just wanted to get out of here as fast as possible. The elevator door finally opened, and Churgis and Amira rushed into the elevator. The door closed, and the elevator slowly descended. But at that moment, the lights in the elevator began to flicker. Creak, 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 scratch marks began to appear on the elevator door. It was as if someone had scratched the metal door with a sharp object. Both of them broke out in cold sweat. Amira cried out in fear. Think of something, there's a ghost, there's really a ghost, there's really a ghost. Churgis had completely lost control. There's really a ghost, there's really a ghost. This was no longer part of his plan. Churgis' mind was in a mess. Churgis had never been a daring person. In his past missions, even if they were all fake, he had never dared to enter those so-called haunted houses alone. Ding! The elevator door opened, and the two of them scrambled out of the elevator and rushed out of the bank. Suddenly, Amira tripped over something and looked back. Wasn't that the woman who had jumped off the building in front of them today? Hadn't her body been cleaned up a long time ago? Why was she still here? At this moment, the corpse began to crawl up slowly. Chapter 845. Amira was horrified. Church Jis pulled Amira to his side. What are you waiting for? Run! As Amira was running, she did not forget to look back at the employee who had jumped off the building. The female employee was still swaying as she strolled in her direction. At that moment, Amira suddenly noticed that a car was heading toward her. Turning around, she saw that the one in the car was the evil ghost she had encountered on the 13th floor. The female ghost had a ferocious look on her face. She gripped the steering wheel and a crazed expression appeared on her face. The car was traveling at least 150 kilometers per hour. If someone were to be hit at such a speed, they would definitely die. I'm dead! Church Jis felt his legs turning to jelly. 20 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters. At that moment, a fireball suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! The fireball landed on the hood of the car that the female ghost was driving. With a loud noise, the car rolled forward and flipped over Church Jis and Amira's heads. Church Jis and Amira's mouths were wide open, their faces filled with shock. A tall woman wielding a great sword was standing in the same place. The female ghost rushed out from the car and pounced at the woman. The woman's fist suddenly burst into flames, and she punched the female ghost's head. In an instant, the female ghost's head was crushed and her spirit body began disintegrating. Shock was written all over Church Jis and Amira's faces. Are we saved? Amira looked at the woman, her eyes filled with stars. There is indeed something wrong with this building. Gaia looked at the headquarters of the bank before turning to look at Amira and Church Jis. Are you two all right? Don't walk around at a time like this, especially in an unsafe place like this. Madam. Amira stepped forward. I'm not married. Gaia's expression immediately turned ugly. It was very impolite to call an unmarried woman madam. Sorry. Children, let's go home. I am the general manager of this bank, besides I am not a child. Amira quickly stated her identity. Gaia ignored Amira and raised her head to look at the building before her. Suddenly, Gaia moved. Like a ferocious tiger, Gaia charged toward the building. But at that moment, a gust of air formed by evil spirits gushed out from the entrance of the building. Like a torrent, it directly hit Gaia's body. Then, Gaia flew backward and hit the wall on the opposite side of the road. Amelia and Chujis were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Wasn't this place too scary? Originally, they thought that a savior had come, but in the end, they were sent flying by a single blow from the evil spirit. Flying so far away, that woman was dead for sure, right? At this time, Gaia stood up again and patted the dust off his body. Immediately after, flames appeared on Gaia's body along with the great sword in her hand. At this moment, Gaia was on the verge of exploding. Her fighting spirit, and state were all completely released after that blow. Gaia was like a cannonball, directly shooting towards the entrance of the building. Evil spirits surged out from the entrance of the building again, crashing into Gaia. But this time, Gaia was not sent flying. Gaia's flaming greatsword slashed down. Bang! The torrent of evil spirits was split apart by Gaia. Amira and Churchill covered their mouths, their eyes filled with disbelief. But Gaia did not last until the end. Her body was sent flying again. She landed in front of Amira and Churchill. Amira hurriedly helped Gaia up. Are you okay? I'm fine. Gaia twisted her neck and took out her phone. She realized that her phone was broken. Can I borrow your phone for a while? Of course. Amira quickly handed the phone to Gaia. Gaia made a call. Hello, Mr. West. I'm at the Los Angeles branch of Irvine Bank. There's a very powerful existence there that I can't handle. Gaia called for a minute and hung up. Thank you for calling. With that, Gaia turned to leave. Wait. Miss, what about the evil spirits in this building? I can't beat them, Gaia said. Then what? If I can't beat them, then I can't. What else do you want me to do? Gaia answered matter-of-factly. So you're not going to do anything? I'll gather my partners and come up with a battle plan, Gaia said. How do you want me to cooperate? Before the problem is solved, it's best not to worry about the inside. So our bank can't operate normally? You can choose to continue, but people will die one after another. How long will it take to solve it? Amira asked. I don't know. The thing inside is really scary. I'm not sure if my partners and I can kill it. What if you can't even handle it? It's okay. There's still a monster among us. We can wait for him to come back. Monster? What kind of monster? Just a monster. Stronger than you? Of course. I was almost brought out by him. Then why don't you let him fight? He's on vacation. We can't contact him for now. Also, he's our boss. Most of the time, we don't want him to fight unless it's a really tricky problem. Phew. We're finally home. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai both collapsed on the sofa. No matter how crazy they were outside, it was still more comfortable at home. Fei Lai, I'm sorry for yesterday. Chen Zhao pulled Fei Lai over. He had actually slapped her. Chen Zhao never thought that hitting his own woman was right. It was not allowed under any circumstances. Fei Lai leaned against his shoulder. Qin, you've said it many times since yesterday. But I still want to say I'm sorry. Fei Lai could feel that Qin Zhao had been blaming himself. More importantly, it wasn't the slap. He felt that he hadn't protected himself well enough. He felt that if he had protected himself better, perhaps he could have avoided the slap. I've never blamed you. I insisted on going to the island. Fei Lai leaned against Qin Zhao. Thank you for spoiling me. Just then, Qin Zhao's phone rang. Hello, Mr. Qin. I'm Andrews. Hello, how can I help you? It's like this. I've done some research in Mountain Town. The land prices there have been rising rapidly in the past year. Although the land around your villa isn't high-quality farmland, the price of an acre is around $7,000. Qin Zhao nodded. What's the specific price? The complete land around you that doesn't involve other landlords is around 12 square kilometers. The government of Mountain Town wants to sell it. After all, it'll be a waste if you leave it there. But that means you'll have to pay close to $20 million. It's much higher than I thought, Qin Zhao said. 12 square kilometers was almost 3 times the land Qin Zhao currently owned. It was indeed big. Chapter 846. Mr. Qin, I'll try my best to lower the price, Andrews said. How much money can you help me save? Qin Zhao said. You can take 5% as your commission. He couldn't make a cow work and not give it grass. How much Andrews could lower the price would depend on his ability. As for how much the bank could lower the price, there were too many ways. Especially super banks like Citibank. For example, they could tell the local government that if they wanted to get a loan from their bank, they had to give them preferential treatment in certain transactions. This was their trump card. For a government like Mountain Town that didn't have many resources or industries, they had to rely on bank loans. Many things needed to rely on bank loans, but if a company like Citibank gave the Mountain Town government a bad loan evaluation, then the Mountain Town government was likely to go bankrupt. So, the government couldn't ignore Citibank's request. How much they could lower the price would depend on Citibank's ability. Yes, Mr. Qin. I'll try my best. Andrews's tone was still calm, but his heart was beating wildly. In a transaction worth tens of millions of dollars, a trader or accountant's biggest income was the commission. In most cases, a commission of 1% or 2% was already considered the maximum. But Qin Zhao gave him a 5% commission. He had to work hard. In many cases, an accountant like him would not make a profit for half a year, but when he did, he would make a living for half a year. When they got home, both Qin Zhao and Fei Lai were very tired. But Jerlin was as active as usual. She didn't know what fatigue was at all. Of course, this was also because she slept most of the time. After that, she ate and played. Fei Lai went to sleep early. Qin Zhao was still holding the scroll and the metal container that contained it. What was Vanity's goal for giving him this? He couldn't get through to her. If Vanity wanted to harm him, it didn't seem meaningful. Back then, Vanity could kill Carlo with one shot under those circumstances. This meant that Vanity was an extremely calm person. She wouldn't be emotional. As for deep hatred, there was no such thing. So, Qin Zhao didn't believe that she'd give him a random thing and use it to harm him. Kamesa Island was a trap. It might be dangerous for normal people, but it didn't threaten him at all. Therefore, he could rule out the possibility of Vanity using this to harm him. In that case, she must have other motives for luring him to that island. Or did he miss out on some information? Qin Zhao wasn't sure. The next day, Qin Zhao and Fei Lai were exercising in the morning. Their routine was basically swimming. At this moment, a call came in. After receiving a notification from the butler system, Qin Zhao returned to the shore and picked up the call. It was Evely. They hadn't contacted each other for a long time. Qin, do you remember what you promised me? Did I promise you anything? Why don't I remember? Could it be that I've made a solemn vow to you before? You said that before the World Championship, you would help me train for 10 days. In the end, you stood me up. It seems that you didn't inform me in time. Do you know how busy I am? If you didn't take the initiative to remind me, how would I know if you wanted to train? So it's my fault? Clearly, it's your fault. Chen Zhao replied. Then I want to train now. The World Championship is over. Why are you still training? I didn't break the men's world record. Are you planning to humiliate us men to the point where we have no face left? If you think that I humiliated you men, you can participate in the competition yourself. I think that with your ability, you can definitely make your men proud. Alright, I'm not that bored. Are you willing to help or not? What competition do you have next? In November, there's a World Championship Celebrity Invitational. I'm the world record holder now, so I'm also invited. I also plan to break the men's world record in the Celebrity Invitational. My girlfriend's pregnant. I don't have much time. 10 days, $2 million. Starting from today, are you in LA? Fuck. Evely cursed. Huh. You know that word? I've been learning Chinese recently. Okay, where are you now? I'm at the North Beach Natatorium. How come I don't know this place? Chen Zhao asked, confused. It's a high-end natatorium. I've been training here recently. I don't understand. What's the difference between a so-called high-end natatorium and a regular one? Don't you know that the difference in water quality has a lot to do with the swimmer's performance? Your performance didn't depend on the water quality. Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. Hurry and come over. Stop nagging. Fine. After hanging up, Chen Zhao said to Fei Lai, who was on the lake, Fei Lai, I'm going out to earn money. Fei Lai waved her hand, indicating that she heard. Chen Zhao drove and found the North Beach Natatorium according to the GPS. Not to mention the facilities inside, just the architectural style of the natatorium was enough to tell that it was expensive. As soon as Chen Zhao got out of the car, someone bumped his shoulder. Turning around, he saw that it was a high-ranking official from Citibank. His name seemed to be Amira. Seeing Chen Zhao, Amira was also stunned. Sorry. Amira didn't know Chen Zhao's name. He only knew that Chen Zhao was a client of their bank. Chen Zhao nodded, but after walking for a while, he realized that Amira seemed to be heading in the same direction as him. At the entrance of an indoor natatorium, Amira looked at Chen Zhao. Sir, you've been following me all the way. Chen Zhao was helpless. I'm also coming to this pool. Amira furrowed his brows. Sir, this swimming pool has already been booked, so your excuse is completely meaningless. Just then, Evely poked her head out. Sister Amira, you're here. Chen, you're finally here. Amira was surprised. You know him? He's the coach I hired. Amira looked at Chen Zhao. You're a swimming coach? Temporary. Sorry, I misunderstood you just now. Amira apologized perfunctorily. Temporary swimming coach? She wanted to see how special Chen Zhao's temporary swimming coach was. Right now, almost all the swimming coaches in the country were lined up for Evely to choose. She was the world champion, the world record holder, and the first woman to swim the 800-meter freestyle for 8 minutes. With all these accolades, Amira was practically the Usain Bolt of the swimming world. Her condition had always been very stable. As long as she participated in a competition, she would always win. If you need a doctor, or if you run into a ghost, you can come to me, but my fees are very high. Amira was even more certain that Chen Zhao was a liar. It didn't matter if it was his main job, his side job, or this temporary coaching job. She felt that Chen Zhao relied on scamming for a living. By the way, Mr. Chen said that our bank is haunted, right? Amira asked. She felt that Chen Zhao was the same as Chergi's. He relied on his glib tongue to gain trust and then scam people. Yes, Chen Zhao said. Maybe there's an evil spirit behind this. Mr. Chen, can you exorcise demons? Sure, but it's very expensive. I can afford it. To expose a liar, Chen Zhao had to first pull him in. Then $2 million. Do you accept it? Chen Zhao knew that Amira was very rich, so he asked for an exorbitant price. Amira's face darkened. Do you think I'm as easy to trick as Evely? Chergis is so famous, but he only asked for $100,000. You're asking for $2 million? I'll pay first, Chen Zhao said. You haven't even done anything and you're asking for $2 million. Isn't that inappropriate? It's my rule, Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. If you're not willing, then forget it. That was Citibank. Chen Zhao didn't think that his price was too high. In fact, Chen Zhao even thought that his price was fair. Amira sneered inwardly. Who would believe you? If you take $2 million from me, you'll probably disappear from the face of the earth. Mr. Chen, you know quite a lot. There's a saying in China, it's never a bad thing to have more skills. After a while, Evely came out of the water. Chen, what do you think of my swimming? I was just chatting with Ms. Amira and didn't see you swim. How about you swim a few more times? Fuck. Evely gave Chen Zhao the middle finger in anger and sat down on the bench to rest. Same rule. Eat whatever you want on the first day. Starting tomorrow, eat according to my requirements. Got it. It wasn't Evely's first time being trained by Chen Zhao. She knew his rules very well. Oh, what have you been busy with recently? Making money. Amira thought to himself, perhaps he's busy swindling money. Mr. Chen, since you're a coach, you must be very good at swimming, right? No, Chen Zhao said modestly. I might not be able to swim that fast as a coach. Mr. Chen, I know a few swimmers. Do you want to compete? Not interested, Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. He didn't have time to compete with athletes. As long as you participate, I'll give you $10,000, no matter if you win or lose. If she wanted to expose Chen Zhao's scam, she had to do it from the root. Since he was pretending to be a swimming coach, Evely should be able to find out his background if she saw his swimming skills. I don't lack $10,000. If I win, I'll pay you $1 million. Sister Amelia, are you crazy? Chen's really good at swimming. You'll pay me $1 million if I win? Chen Zhao stared at Amira, his eyes wide. Even the World Championships didn't have such a high prize. Amira sneered inwardly. You want $1 million? She didn't call an ordinary athlete. He'd once represented America in the Olympics and was a member of the main national team. Of course, as long as you can win. Sure. It won't be a problem even if you get Phelps, Chen Zhao said directly. Chen Zhao didn't want to be an athlete. It was too tiring. Chapter 848. Which distance are you good at? Amira asked. I'm good at everything. Even if you call a triathlete, I'll still win. Triathlons included swimming too. It was a super long distance, 5 kilometers. Amira thought that Chen Zhao was being stubborn. Maybe he didn't think he could find a professional athlete. You mean any swimming event? You think you can beat anyone? Of course, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. If you're willing to pay $1 million for every match, find as many people as you want and I'll compete in a few matches, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. Sister Amira, don't compete with Chen, Evely hurriedly said. You can't beat him. If it was just $1 million, it would be fine if Chen Zhao won it. But if Amira really agreed to Chen Zhao's request, she probably wouldn't just win $1 million. Others might not know, but Evely knew Chen Zhao's ability very well. But when she said that, Amira was even more indignant. So you're saying that you can beat an entire swimming team if I bring them here? If I lose, it'll be my loss. Then what if you lose? If I lose, I'll also pay $1 million, Chen Zhao said. That's what you said? Amira sneered inwardly. I'll make you spit out all the money you cheated. Do you dare to be a witness? Sure, Chen Zhao said. As long as you're a witness, I'll be one. Freestyle, breaststroke, butterfly, backstroke, and medley. Do you dare to accept all of them? Amira made up her mind. She had to make Chen Zhao go bankrupt. Since Chen Zhao dared to cheat her best friend, she had no reason to let him go. Sure, I don't mind making more money, Chen Zhao said calmly. As long as you can afford it, you can have as many races as you want. Are you sure you want to have so many races in a day? Amira asked. I'm very sure. Evely covered her face. Sister Amira, don't you want to reconsider? Evely, I brought someone from the national swimming team. They're training in Los Angeles recently. I can't think of any possibility that they'll lose. Amira looked at Chen Zhao. As long as he doesn't pee his pants. How about this? As long as it's a race of 200 meters or more, I'll give you at least 50 meters. Evely widened her eyes at Chen Zhao. She didn't expect him to be so arrogant. On the U.S. national swimming team, there were a few who held world records. You still want to give them at least 50 meters. Evely knew that Chen Zhao was very strong. No, very scary. She also knew that Chen Zhao had given in to others several times during the University of California sports. But at that time, they were all female students or second or third-tier athletes. This was a completely different concept. You are now facing athletes from the national team, which is absolutely world-class. What are the characteristics of a liar? That was unrealistic boasting. In order to boast about how strong he was, he started to boast unrealistically. Not to mention the number of consecutive races, just giving 50 meters was a sign of ignorance in Amira's eyes. She wasn't an athlete, but she knew that 10 meters was a decisive distance when competing against world-class or even national athletes. Giving 50 meters to a 200-meter race? Do you think you're Superman? That's what you said? Of course. Then if I find a notary, can I write it in the notarization too? Of course. With that, Amira went to make the call. Evely glanced at Chen Zhao. Are you confident? Sister Amira definitely won't find an ordinary person. She can easily pull them to the national team. Even if they're not in Los Angeles, she can still gather them in one day. Do you think I have a reason to reject someone who's giving me money? Don't lose all your money. Evely was still very concerned about Chen Zhao. If it was a regular race, she believed that Chen Zhao could win. But if he gave 50 meters to a 200-meter race, that would be too arrogant. In less than 20 minutes, the notary arrived. Chen Zhao even suspected that the notary had been prepared beforehand. Miss Amira, is there anything I can do for you? Amira glanced at Chen Zhao and then told him the whole story. The notary's face was filled with shock. He turned to Chen Zhao. Miss Amira, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Of course. Why would I reject someone who wants to give me money? The notary looked at Chen Zhao. Sir, are you sure too? Or do you want to change some details? I don't think so. Disdain appeared in the notary's eyes. This Asian wanted to challenge the U.S. swimming team? And he wanted to give up points. Was he looking down on the U.S. national team? Actually, Evely was also on the U.S. national team. However, she didn't have much confidence in Chen Zhao now. After all, Chen Zhao's words were too confident, almost to the point of arrogance. The notary quickly drafted the VM agreement. Then, please sign it. Since he was here, it meant that the VM was legally binding. Chen Zhao and Amira both signed their names. The notary also signed his name. The agreement was officially in effect. It didn't take long before the swimming team arrived. Uncle. Amira hugged the coach directly. Darling, did you say someone wants to challenge my kids? Amira pointed at Chen Zhao. That guy. Which event is he swimming in? He said he's all-rounder, and he can defeat the entire team alone. Young man, do you know what you're saying? Chen Zhao was sitting lazily on the bench, eating some fruit. I know, I'm earning money. What do you mean? The coach was clearly confused. Amira moved to the coach's ear and whispered something. The coach looked at Chen Zhao. Kid, you're too arrogant. He'd already changed the way he addressed Chen Zhao from young man to kid. Clearly, he was already quite dissatisfied with Chen Zhao. 200 meters, or more than 200 meters, directly give up 50 meters? This was a complete insult to his team. I don't need you to do that, the coach said coldly. As long as you can beat any one of them, it's my loss. Although the coach said that, he didn't mean what he said. After all, Qin Zhao wasn't betting against him, but Amira. Chapter 849. Okay, the coach said. Who's going to beat him first? A 2-meter-tall guy walked out. I'll do it, coach. Rochelle, you're a 200-meter freestyle swimmer. Don't lose. I'm serious. If you lose to this Asian, I'll kick you out of the national team no matter how good your past results are. Rochelle didn't have a world record, but he'd won almost all the championships. 4 years ago, he'd won the Olympic 200-meter freestyle gold medal, the World Championship, the Swimming World Cup champion, and all the championships for the national team. Rochelle was best at the 200-meter freestyle. He also had a good result in the 400-meter freestyle. Rochelle looked down at Qin Zhao. Asian, do you want me to give you a handicap of 50 meters? I don't mind, Qin Zhao replied, smiling. Rochelle, a competition is a competition. Even if it's not a formal competition, you have to be serious, the coach reminded. Come here, Asian, Rochelle called out provocatively. Let me teach you a lesson. Qin Zhao stood on the platform, chewing on the apple in one hand. Kid, you're going to die. You're still eating? Qin Zhao placed the apple beside the platform and looked at Evely, who was in charge of the starting pistol. Ready. Evely raised the pistol. Bang! As expected, Rochelle jumped in immediately. He was just saying that he would give Qin Zhao a handicap of 50 meters. He wanted to crush Qin Zhao with absolute strength. As promised, Qin Zhao stood on the platform. He didn't jump in until Rochelle turned around at the first 50 meters. That's a non-standard entry. The national coach looked disgusted. Qin Zhao surfaced at 15 meters. There was a rule for diving distance in formal competitions. It couldn't be more than 15 meters. So fast! Qin Zhao's speed finally exploded. Every time he swam, he'd move a long distance forward. Most of the people present were professional swimmers. They were very sensitive to speed. Even without a stopwatch, they could roughly estimate a person's speed in the water. Qin Zhao was very fast. He finished the first 50 meters in the blink of an eye. Did he use 20 seconds just now? Definitely. The world record is only 91 seconds. He can't break the world record. I feel like he didn't even use 20 seconds. My senses must be wrong. Evely held the stopwatch. She knew Qin Zhao's speed better than anyone else. Qin Zhao took 14.66 seconds for the first 50 meters. This meant that Qin Zhao had already broken the world record in the first segment. Before Rochelle could finish the second section, Qin Zhao had already passed him. Everyone's jaws dropped, and their faces were filled with shock. Evely's eyes were filled with shock. This was because Qin Zhao's speed in the second section was even faster than the first. Including the time he took to turn, he only took 14.61 seconds. What a terrifying speed! However, he slowed down in the third stretch of 50 meters. In less than a minute, Cooper failed. At this time, all the male members of the national team were shrouded in a shadow. Next, come! The coach glanced at his team members. Everyone's eyes were avoiding his. Wayne, you go. Wayne was a male 800-meter freestyle swimmer. The only way to defeat this monster was to exhaust his stamina. Let's start with the physically demanding events. They dragged it out until the very end before sending out their strongest. However, Wayne's result was also a crushing defeat. Amira couldn't stand still anymore. Right now, she was making more money than anyone else. She'd lost another $1 million. Who could defeat this monster? Next was the men's 400-meter individual medley. He failed again. Everyone was in despair. No one could beat him. You're not on yet. What do you swim? Now Qin Zhao called out his name directly. 400-meter freestyle, Biederman answered. This farce ends here. The coach finally couldn't take it anymore. He felt that Amira was completely tricking him. Qin Zhao had already destroyed the confidence of all the male members of the team. Now, all the men were physically and mentally exhausted. Even those who hadn't gone on stage could no longer fight. If they continued, even if the national team didn't disband, they wouldn't be able to recover in a short time. Everyone was covered in cuts and bruises. Only that man was still standing there with a calm look on his face. Coach Rodman, stop competing. He's a monster. Don't try to compete with him in any sports. He used the same method to destroy all the students in our school who specialized in sports. From high jump to long jump, from track and field to swimming, no one could beat him. Not even professional athletes could beat him, Evely said. Coach Rodman, stop competing. Everyone was dumbfounded by Evely's words. He won't get tired? His so-called tiredness is all an act. He likes to use this method to trick people and make them think that he's tired. He once swam 20 to 30 kilometers in the sea. Evely knew Qin Zhao too well. This shameless asterisk shoal always used this method to give people hope and then bring them despair. I don't believe he's good at any sports. He can't be good at fighting, right? I don't know his strength in other sports, but he once broke a boxing champion's arm with one punch. That boxing champion retired, so you can compete with him normally. Don't try to anger him. Everyone looked at Qin Zhao unnaturally. Qin Zhao was still sitting with his legs crossed, eating an apple. Are you still going to compete? I've already eaten 3 apples. Amira gritted her teeth and glared at Qin Zhao. You tricked me. You cheated my money. Qin Zhao lifted a finger and waved it. I've never cheated you. You were the one who suggested the competition. I never forced you. You were the one who suggested the notarization too. Oh, how many rounds did I win just now? Let me count. 50-meter freestyle, 100-meter freestyle, 200-meter freestyle. Qin Zhao counted with his fingers and then looked at Amira. I think there were only 9. Thank you for your patronage. That's $9 million in total. Amelia felt dizzy. She could afford 9 million, but she wasn't satisfied. Moreover, she'd lost 9 million in such a humiliating way. I'm so happy today. I met an idiot who had to give me 9 million for free. Qin Zhao looked at Coach Rodman. Sir, are your men really not going to compete? How about we discuss it? I'll give you 500,000 per round as compensation. It was too scary. Now, she could only hope that Gaia and the others could send reinforcements and solve the problem as soon as possible. Suddenly, Amira felt her body stiffen. It was as if something had crawled into her body. Amira could clearly feel it. Then, Amira realized that she had lost control of her body and was walking inwards. Chapter 852. Step by step, Amira walked deeper into the bank. Someone save me? Amira wanted to scream, but she had already lost control of her body. She couldn't even make a sound, let alone escape. Amira could already see the huge pit that had been formed by the gold ingot. Amira walked to the front of the pit and saw a bubbling pool of green liquid in the pit. A hand stretched out from the pool. The arm had no skin and was filled with a rotten and suffocating stench. Amira's scalp was about to explode. She was extremely nervous at the moment. The liquid in the pool was decreasing, and the thing inside was revealing more of its body. A mummy? Amira stared at the thing in confusion. It was a humanoid figure, but its body was wrapped in sparse bandages. Most of the bandages, however, had been torn off, leaving it exposed, just like its right arm. Its body was covered in green liquid, which kept dripping from the bandages. The gold ingot was embedded in the mummy's chest. The bandages on the mummy's body suddenly shot out and wrapped themselves around a nearby pillar. Then, the mummy's body was hoisted out of the pit. The mummy waddled over to Amira. The bandages began to bind Amira's hands and feet, pulling her towards the mummy. Amira prayed in her heart. Suddenly, a loud noise came from behind. A flash of fire came from behind, brushing past Amira's ear. Boom! The flash of fire exploded on the mummy's body, and the mummy immediately collapsed. At the same time, Amira's body regained its freedom. Amira turned and ran. She saw that Gaia had arrived. Amira had never been so excited and touched before. Amira ran behind Gaia. Gaia's expression was solemn. "Let's go!" The two ran out of the bank and found that the outside was covered in fog. Visibility was very low. Just then, the mummy started to stroll out of the bank. Within the fog, the figures of evil spirits were constantly flashing and moving about. Amira's nerves tightened, and she pulled on the corner of Gaia's clothes tightly. Suddenly, a figure dashed out of the fog. More rushed towards the mummy and hugged it with both arms. Boom! A suicide attack. Amira was dumbfounded. What just happened? A child launching a suicide attack on a mummy? "My companions are here," Gaia said. West and the others finally arrived. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside Amira. Amelia was startled. "Help, don't be afraid, little girl." Pamela's figure flickered as she glanced at Amira. "She's with us," Gaia said. "That guy won't die," Amoer said. West came to Gaia. "What's the situation now?" "That's the mummy." "From Egypt?" "I don't know where he is, but he looks like he's from Egypt," Gaia said. "This guy is scary. It controls tens of thousands of evil spirits." Pamela looked around. "The entire area is covered in an evil spirit fog. Where did it come from? Controlling tens of thousands of evil spirits? I don't think there are that many evil spirits in all of Los Angeles, right? I am Abaddon." The mummy finally spoke. Everyone's mind went blank. Whether it was Amira or Gaia's group, they had all heard of this name. In the Book of Revelation, there was such a passage. The fifth angel blew a horn. A giant star fell from the sky and crashed onto the ground, creating a bottomless abyss. Immediately, thick smoke rose from the abyss, covering the sky and darkening the world. The abyss was like a huge furnace. Locusts flew out of the smoke. These locusts had the faces of men and women. They specifically attacked people who weren't marked by God. The locusts wouldn't kill people directly. Instead, they tortured them to death. The master of the locusts was this great demon king, Abaddon, the dark angel of death and plague. He controlled life and death, spreading plague and fear. Everyone felt chills run down their spines. Abaddon? How could they defeat such a terrifying demon? Abaddon's footsteps swayed as he walked toward the group. Gaia yelled, and the flames on her body suddenly exploded. She leaped high and slashed at Abaddon. Without even looking up, Abaddon shot the bandages on his body at Gaia. He bound her limbs and smashed her to the ground. Gaia was defeated in one move. Gaia stood up again, wanting to charge at Abaddon again. But two evil spirits darted out of the mist and pierced through Gaia's back. Gaia spat out a mouthful of blood. "Gaia, come back! We can't beat him!" West shouted. "We have to wait for the president. We can't beat a demon of this level alone. When is he coming? I can't get through. The signal interference here is very bad. Let's hide first," West said. "We can't fight him here." "You can't hide," Abaddon said. "This is my territory. You have nowhere to hide. Think of something. Quick, think of a way." Amelia was already crying out of fear. When had she ever experienced something so terrifying? In fact, she wasn't the only one. Everyone from the supernatural organization also felt cold. The enemy this time wasn't an ordinary one. It was a demon king from hell. Chen Zhao was still training heavily in the swimming pool. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Sienna. "Chen, something big happened." "What happened?" "A huge source of mana has appeared in Air Bay. Fog has covered Air Bay, and evil spirits are constantly rushing out of the fog." "Air Bay?" "Yes. All the spiritualists in L.A. are heading there now. Since so many have gone, I don't think I need to go. Cheryl and I plan to go too, but Cheryl can't fight at all. She's curled up like a frightened wolf cub." Qin Zhao frowned. Cheryl could sense danger, but she was so scared. But why was Cheryl so scared? What was in Bay? The mist is spreading, Sienna said. If we can't stop it, it might cover all of L.A. Okay, I'll think of something. After hanging up, Qin Zhao called West. He couldn't get through? He tried calling Gaia again, but it still didn't go through. He tried calling Elite, Jalag, and the others, but he couldn't get through. They couldn't have already run into the fog, right? Chapter 853. Lee, is dinner ready? Ethan slumped before the counter weakly. If I don't eat, I feel like I'm going to die. Just then, Li Qing walked out from inside. Ignoring Ethan, she walked to the door and looked into the distance. Li, is dinner ready? Li Qing was still looking into the distance. After a while, she turned around and looked at Ethan. Mr. Ethan, I need to go out. Dinner is in the kitchen. Go get it yourself. Where are you going? Li Qing didn't speak. Instead, she went back to her room to change. She even took a sword. Ethan looked at her in shock. Li, where are you going? Mr. Ethan, can I borrow your car? Okay. Ethan looked at Li Qing's expression and her outfit. Are you going to a costume party? Li Qing's expression was stern and cold. Her eyes were like torches. Ethan had never seen Li Qing like this. Her domineering aura was like an unsheathed sword. How come I didn't realize that Li is so pretty before? My dear master, that place is too dangerous. Don't go there. It's different this time. There's a terrifying demon hidden in the fog, Simon said in fear. Harisha looked at the fog in the distance. The Witch Assassin Union has issued a mission. I have to go. Otherwise, my identity will be taken away. That's still better than going there to die. We can't defeat the demon inside, Simon said. You can leave now. No, Simon said seriously. I already swore to protect you forever. Even if you go to the toilet, I'll accompany you. You'd better die right now. Rupert, bring this and that too. Camilla followed beside Rupert and kept reminding her. And this wand. Teacher, are you sure you want me to bring a wand that's longer than me? You have to. This wand can greatly increase your magic power, Camilla said. Teacher, what's inside? You've never been so nervous before. I don't know what's inside, but that thing makes me feel fear. Chen will go, right? Even Chen might not be able to defeat the thing inside this time. Even he can't defeat him? Is it that scary? Yes, I feel a huge source of mana. It's a feeling I've never felt before. It's 100 times stronger than the ghost ship I've fought before. Is it really that scary? This isn't something that a single person can defeat. If that thing isn't handled properly, it's likely to kill everyone in Los Angeles. Qin Zhao felt uneasy on the way back. When they got home, Fei Lai didn't look too good. Fei Lai, what's wrong? I don't know why, but I just feel uncomfortable all over. Qin Zhao glanced at the little demon beside Fei Lai. It seemed to be very anxious. Master, we felt a huge magical power in that direction, King Kong said, pointing in the direction of Bay. We felt a huge magical power in that direction. Even they felt it? It's probably some big demon's power leaking into this world, Samuel said. He's starting to pollute the world. I hate this feeling. I hate when people steal my things. Won't such a powerful demon's power be suppressed by the human laws if it leaks into this world? Chen Zhao asked. I don't know how he did it. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Warrencom. Chen Zhao picked it up. Hi, Chen, Warrencom said. Looks like we'll have a chance to fight side by side again. Won't you consider joining the Holy Knights? You know too? Our satellite detected a huge and terrifying source of mana in the northwest of LA. It's filled with an evil aura. Fuck, you Holy Knights have satellites? Yes, join us. We're rich. Not only do we have satellites, but we also have a lot of high-tech equipment. Do you have spaceships? No, when you have a spaceship, Chen Zhao said. Call me to join. After hanging up, Qinzhao planned to go out too. Fei Lai, I'm going out later. Be careful. Fei Lai seemed to have sensed something. Don't worry. This time, Qinzhao brought Beelzebub, Raymond, Carrie, Blackie, Abitos, King Kong, Black Ma, White Ma, and Samuel. He brought all the demons with him. Qinzhao didn't know what was inside or what was inside. We better think of a strategy, Qinzhao said. All the demons surrounded Qinzhao. The car slowly stopped outside Irwin. Just then, all the demons around Qinzhao started mutating. They were going back to their original forms. Usually, this would happen when they were in a spatial crevice. In other words, they were in a spatial crevice right now. By now, Qinzhao's demon servants were no longer in their ordinary forms. Except for one demon, Samuel. Unless this was a demonic territory created by another demon king. Otherwise, it was impossible to reduce the suppression of laws on him. Okay, disperse. Qinzhao waved his hand. All the demons dispersed. They each searched for the main source of pollution. When they found it, they would call Qinzhao over. On the other hand, Qinzhao carried Samuel and walked in the mist. Blackie followed beside Qinzhao. It should be Abaddon's power, Samuel said. Abaddon? What's his background? A level 2 demon king. It's the same level as the king of ice and snow. It has the ability to spread plagues and curses. It also controls countless evil spirits, Samuel said. Are you saying that I'm going to face a demon king this time? If it's a demon king, I can turn around and leave right now. I can't win at all, okay? It's not a demon king, Samuel said. His power can't seep into the human world. It should be Abaddon's subordinate. It should be a mid-level demon and not the main body. Just then, an evil spirit pounced at Qinzhao. Blackie swept past and the evil spirit turned into ashes. Just then, a figure ran out of the mist. Help, help. Qinzhao took a closer look. Wasn't that Amira? Chapter 854. Why are you here? Eyes wide, Amira stared at Qinzhao in shock. Looking at Qinzhao's arms, he was actually holding a kitten. Taking a walk. Amira held her forehead. Take a walk? Are you taking a walk to heaven? You're taking a walk here? Can't I? Don't you want to see the situation here? Here? What's wrong? You're just going into the fog? Great, Qinzhao said. It's rare for L.A. to have fog like this, especially at night. Amira was speechless. She'd never seen someone so careless. Forget it. She couldn't care less about his life now. She couldn't even protect herself now. She couldn't save anyone else either. Suddenly, an evil spirit charged out of the fog. The evil spirit only had one head, but it was many times larger than an ordinary evil spirit. Amira broke into a run. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the fog. Amira looked back. Qinzhao hadn't followed. The evil spirit hadn't caught up either. Amira was very tired. She'd been running for a long time. Just then, Amira heard crying. She saw the figure of a child in the fog. Amira went forward, trying to pull the child back. However, she realized that the child had already disappeared with the wind. Sister, are you looking for me? Amira heard the child's voice. Looking back, she saw the child lying on her back. The child was covered in blood. Amira was paralyzed with fear. Come down, come down! Suddenly, a sword flashed. Amira saw the child's head cut off by the sword. A strangely dressed woman strolled over, holding a sharp sword. She wasn't young. Her hair was white, but she gave Amira a very special feeling. Elegant. That's right, elegant. The woman's face was as cold as ice and her aura was as cold as the wind. She swung the sword at the fog. The fog around them was swept away. The evil spirit hidden in the fog also let out a wail. It was Li Qing. Amazing! Amira exclaimed. But at that moment, a huge figure rushed out of the fog. It was a giant monster with dozens of skulls on its neck. Its body was 6 to 7 meters tall, and its huge fists smashed down towards the woman. Li Qing's expression changed as he hurriedly dodged. Although her spiritual power was strong, her physical resistance was relatively weak. This kind of monster was the last thing she was good at. The dozens of skulls on the skeletal monster's neck let out a rattling sound. But at that moment, another black shadow appeared in the fog. It was even bigger than the giant skeleton monster. Amelia trembled in fear, while Li Qing's expression froze as she stared vigilantly at the mist. Finally, the fog was abruptly smashed open. A snake. A 5-flowered python broke through the mist. It was a 5-flower python that was more than 30 meters long. It bit the giant skeleton monster. Raymond came. He inhaled, and the skeleton monster's body started to turn into powder, which Raymond sucked into his mouth. Li Qing looked at the unbelievably huge snake warily. Raymond glanced at Li Qing, then at Amelia. Then, he slipped back into the fog. Not an enemy? Li Qing did not sense any hostility from the terrifying snake. Just then, something seemed to fall from the sky. Boom! A rotting evil beast descended from the sky. However, there was also a mountain gorilla on top of it. Amelia watched in shock as the two beasts fought. The mountain gorilla held a huge hammer with both arms, and smashed it hard on the beast's body. With one hit, half of the beast's body was smashed. But in the next instant, another rotting beast pounced out of the fog, pinning the mountain gorilla to the ground. The mountain gorilla kicked upwards, and the rotting beast was kicked into the air. The mountain gorilla did a home run, swinging the hammer with one arm and smashing the rotting beast away. Amelia's heart was pounding as she watched the mountain gorilla fight against the rotting beasts that kept appearing. It looked dangerous, but the mountain gorilla was clearly much stronger. Even though it was one against many, it still had the upper hand. Li Qing was also watching from the side, but she could not intervene. The mountain gorilla was obviously on her side. Just then, Amelia felt someone pulling her from behind. The two evil spirits were dragging her away at high speed. Li Qing watched as Amelia was dragged away, disappearing into the fog in the blink of an eye. Even if she wanted to lend a helping hand, there was nothing she could do. Amelia was terrified. Suddenly, a white shadow flashed past. Amelia had already been snatched away by the white shadow. She was placed on the ground by the white shadow. Amelia looked up. It was a huge, snow-white beast that was 10 meters long. The snow-white beast had a long, thin mane, and was completely spotless. Amelia had seen too many unbelievable things that night. So she was no longer as shocked as before. The newcomer was naturally a home without the suppression of the laws. Carrie breathed out a breath of cold air into the sky. Huge chunks of ice kept falling from the sky. Every piece of ice that fell had an evil spirit sealed within it. Amelia felt that the snow-white beast was incredible. But just then, more evil spirits appeared around them. Hundreds of evil spirits surrounded Carrie. Amelia could not help but worry for the silver-white beast. Could this silvery white beast deal with so many evil spirits? Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of fire descended from the sky. Amelia rubbed her eyes. What did she just see? Dragon? The legendary fire dragon? Carrie and Abitos, who had rushed over, had their backs to each other. They breathed out cold air and dragon breath at the same time, circling around them. Shock was written all over Amelia's face. She felt like she was living in a myth. Suddenly, a foul stench assaulted them. Amelia was no stranger to this smell. That thing was coming. She saw a Abaddon swaying his body in the fog, walking in their direction. Carrie and Abitos both looked wary. The next moment, bandages shot out of the fog, binding Carrie and Abitos. Abaddon appeared in front of Amelia again. Amelia felt her hair stand on end. Abaddon sprayed a mouthful of green liquid at Amelia. You're dead! The next moment, Amelia suddenly felt someone pull her collar, dodging the green liquid. Amelia looked up. It was Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was carrying Amelia with one hand and holding the cat with the other. Hi, Miss Amelia, we meet again. You're not dead? Is this how you greet people in your hometown? Didn't you notice the situation here? Amelia asked excitedly. Did you forget that I'm a spiritualist? They were all affected by the plague released by Abaddon. Everyone's expression changed instantly. Even Qinzhao's pets couldn't defeat Abaddon? Abaddon looked at Qinzhao and Amelia. Immediately, Abaddon spat out a large amount of green liquid. The green liquid shot toward Qinzhao and Amelia. The dark serum formed a wall, blocking Abaddon's green liquid. Then, the dark serum spread from the ground to Abaddon's feet and pulled him into the shadows. Abaddon struggled a few times, but he couldn't break free. The more he struggled, the faster he sank. Amelia stared at Qinzhao in shock. So powerful. This was the first time she saw someone who could fight Abaddon head-on. Just when Qinzhao thought that the battle would end in such a simple way, the surrounding evil spirits started gathering toward Abaddon. Blackie, stop them! Qinzhao shouted. Blackie did his best to kill the evil spirits that were approaching Abaddon. However, there were still some that slipped through the net. With each evil spirit Abaddon absorbed, he became stronger. The more difficult it was for Qinzhao to control the dark serum. Everyone stared at Qinzhao in disbelief. They couldn't see Blackie. So, they could only see hundreds of evil spirits disintegrating. Those ferocious evil spirits would often disappear for no apparent reason. Abaddon finally broke free from Qinzhao's shadows. At this moment, Abaddon had grown a lot. He looked like a mummy of a superstar. Qinzhao took out his bronze sword. Facing Abaddon, he didn't dare to be careless. He also had to fight in his strongest state. Abaddon's bandages also formed the shape of a sword. With the addition of demonic power, it turned into a huge green sword. Abaddon raised the huge green sword and smashed it down at Qinzhao's head. Amelia's face was already pale. Qinzhao blocked with his bronze sword. Bang! The ground around them shattered, but the two were evenly matched. Although Abaddon and Qinzhao's size was very different, the difference in strength wasn't obvious. The huge green sword and the bronze sword collided. They were still wrestling. Amelia's face was filled with shock. She looked at Qinzhao in disbelief. She didn't expect that Qinzhao, who had always been frivolous in front of her, could actually fight with Abaddon. Qinzhao suddenly exerted force and pushed Abaddon's huge green sword away. Abaddon staggered back a few steps. He used the same trick again and sprayed large amounts of green liquid at Qinzhao. The mouth of gluttony sucked in all the green liquid. The next moment, it condensed into a sphere and shot out. Abaddon was hit by his own attack and was knocked back. Everyone watched Qinzhao and Abaddon's battle in shock. The dark serum started covering Qinzhao's body. Qinzhao could feel that Abaddon's strength wasn't weaker than his. So, he had to decide the winner as soon as possible. Qinzhao turned black. Of course, it was only on the surface. After the dark state, Qinzhao's strength increased again. As for the bronze sword, mana was completely poured into it, covering the surface of the bronze sword with a layer of sword aura. Qinzhao strode forward and Abaddon raised his sword again. Qinzhao slashed heavily and Abaddon's huge green sword was instantly broken. Everyone's jaws dropped as they looked at Qinzhao in disbelief. Chapter 856. The heart of the sword was like iron, the body like fire, and the aura like a rainbow. It landed on Abaddon's head. Abaddon's huge body was split in half. The place where the blade passed burned. The power of this attack was so great. Everyone couldn't close their mouths. They stared blankly at Qinzhao's back and Abaddon, who had been split in half. Just as everyone was still shocked by the power of Qinzhao's attack, Abaddon's body that had been split in half actually started to fuse back together. Everyone's expression changed. They couldn't kill this demon even with this? Chen, aren't you going to stop him? Gaia asked. No need, Qinzhao said calmly. I want an opponent of equal strength. I want a fair fight. You have a backup plan? Gaia asked, confused. She naturally had nothing to say about Chen Zhao's strength. But what left the deepest impression on her and the members of the association was Chen Zhao's ability to play dirty tricks. She didn't believe Chen Zhao's words. What did he mean by having an opponent of equal strength? When he said this, it usually meant that he already had victory in his hands. He wouldn't have any thoughts of a fair fight. No, Chen Zhao said seriously. I really want to have a fair fight with him, as long as he still has the ability. Gaia rolled her eyes. She wouldn't believe it even if someone beat her to death. Abaddon's body fused back together, but as soon as he took a step, his body started to become unnatural. Then everyone saw Abaddon kneel on the ground. One of his legs started emitting sparks from the inside out. Then his entire body started to emit flames. Thud, Abaddon fell to the ground, unable to resist at all. Chen Zhao just threw angelic crystals into Abaddon's body when he was cut open. For a demon, angelic crystal damage was permanent. It was like a radioactive substance being stuffed into a person's body. Back then, Chen Zhao had stuffed a perfect angelic crystal into Logan Samuel's mouth. Logan Samuel was a demon lord. He was many times stronger than Abaddon, but he'd still been tortured to death. Abaddon couldn't possibly endure such pain and torture. This Abaddon in front of him was not the true messenger of plague and death, nor was he the demon king Abaddon. Instead, he was just a projection of a subordinate demon like Beelzebub, Raymond, and Carrie. However, his main body should be stronger than the three of them. Chen Zhao watched as Abaddon's body was burned to ashes. He saw a piece of demon gold on the ground. Chen Zhao could not help but frown. He was no stranger to the shape of this piece of demon gold. Because the demon gold on Mikasa Island was just like this piece of gold. However, that gold wasn't as evil as this piece of devil gold. Seeing that Chen Zhao was about to pick up the demonic gold, Amira hurriedly shouted, "Don't touch it. This gold is very evil. That demon was released by it." Chen Zhao picked up the demon gold unconcernedly. As expected, the moment he picked up the demonic gold, a wave of demonic power tried to seep into his body. However, the evil demonic energy was quickly devoured by the mouth of gluttony. The mist gradually dispersed. Obito's, Raymond, Carrie, King Kong, and Beelzebub's bodies also started to return to normal. "Do you know where this piece of gold came from?" Chen Zhao asked. "No. Someone deposited it in our bank, but I don't know who it is exactly. Those who know have already committed suicide or were killed by this thing." Amira did not dare to approach the demonic gold. "President, are all the disasters caused by this piece of gold?" "I don't know. I'll bring it back and study it." Chen Zhao had no clue now. After sending Beelzebub and the others to the car, he asked West to deal with the aftermath. This incident was huge, but West should have a way to deal with it. "Samuel, are Beelzebub and the others okay?" Chen Zhao asked. "They're all demons and have strong resistance," Samuel said nonchalantly. "The plague did damage them temporarily, but they'll recover soon." "Samuel, do you know what's going on? This method of summoning demons into the human world is too special." "I never knew there was such a method," Samuel said. "But your method of summoning demons is also special. Every time you summon a demon, you'll form an alliance with it. The Abaddon we met today is completely uncontrolled. He's also a projection, but he doesn't have a consciousness. He completely pollutes the area on his own." Raymond was the first to wake up. He was a snake and had the highest resistance to poison. Then it was Beelzebub's turn. Since he ate everything, no matter what entered his body, he could quickly produce antibodies. When they returned home, Fei Lai saw Chen Zhao. "Chen, did you go to save the world again? Is it Irvine this time? How do you know?" "The news said that there was a chemical leak, so they've temporarily sealed it. It was said that pregnant women became dumb for 3 years." Chen Zhao felt that Fei Lai was getting smarter. However, Fei Lai had a good point. She never asked too many questions. "Andrews, give me your Chinese client's information." "Huh!" Andrews was a bit surprised. He didn't understand why Amira wanted Qin Zhao's information. What's he doing recently? Amira asked. He wants to buy the land where he lives. It's about 12 square kilometers. What's the price? It used to be about $20 million, but the local government has lowered it to $15 million. Continue bargaining, Amira said. Our bank can cooperate with you in any way. Also, tell me the final price. I'll cover 50%. Andrews gasped. What was the relationship between the Chinese and Amira? Amira was actually willing to pay half the price for him. Was their relationship that good? What did Mr. Qin say? Andrews asked. Just say half the price. Just say that it's the result of your bargaining. Don't let him know that I'm paying half the price, Amira said. Chapter 857. Mr. Qin, we've already discussed the price of the land you want to buy. Oh? What price? 6 million. What? Say it again. How much? 6 million. Are you kidding me? Qin Zhao exclaimed. 6 million? In Qin Zhao's opinion, 15 million was about the price. It was basically impossible to go any lower. But Andrews told him that he only had to pay 6 million. Qin Zhao felt that it was really a joke. Of course, Andrews said. The mountain town government wants to apply for an 80 million loan from our bank, but their mortgage is a bit low, so it's hard to approve. So you're using the loan as a bargaining chip? Yes, Andrews said. Mr. Qin, when are you free to come over and sign the land purchase contract? I'm free anytime. How about now? Sure. When Qin Zhao went to Irvine, he realized that the Los Angeles headquarters of Citibank was being renovated, but the office upstairs was still working normally. Although there had been a series of changes, the interior of the bank wasn't affected. This was understandable. After all, with Citibank's power, it wasn't hard to suppress this matter. It was not difficult to suppress this matter. For them, if the gaffe continued to worsen, their business would be affected. Even if it was just the L.A. branch, the loss of a day's work would be huge. Qin Zhao found Andrew's office. Hello, Mr. Qin. Hello? This is the land purchase contract. Please take a look. If there are no problems, you can sign it. Qin Zhao read it word by word. After confirming that there were no problems, he signed it. Mr. Qin, are you familiar with our general manager? Qin Zhao thought for a moment. I just scammed 9 million from her 2 days ago. Is that familiar? Andrews was astonished. You cheated her of $9 million? That wasn't right. If they were enemies, why would Amira help Qin Zhao pay 50% of the land purchase price? Andrews couldn't figure it out. He had indeed discovered that 9 million had suddenly been transferred to Qin Zhao's bank account 2 days ago. But he quickly gave up on guessing. He really couldn't figure it out. So, that land is mine now, right? Qin Zhao asked. Theoretically, Andrews said. But legally, we have to wait for the notary office's result. Qin Zhao nodded. When he'd bought Mirror Lake, he'd waited 2 or 3 months to get the deed. Buying land in America was rather simple. He didn't have to go everywhere. It was to sign the contract and pay the money, then send it to the notary office, and finally the land bureau to issue the land deed. The banking system in the United States was more complete than that in China. Therefore, their business was more detailed and safer. Qin Zhao wasn't worried that something would go wrong with the bank. Just then, Amira walked over. Mr. Qin, I'm Qin, she said. Zhao, she said. Chen, Zhao said. Chen, said. Zhao, you said. You don't have to apologize. If you still want to bet next time, remember to find me. I'll be there any time. Chen, she, Chen. Chen, no. Chen. Amira was so angry that her nose was crooked, but she still maintained a smile on her face. Andrews was even more confused. Why was Amira apologizing to Qin Zhao after losing $9 million? After that, Qin Zhao went to train Evely. Evely's price wasn't low. Qin Zhao had to try his best. Qin, are you coming to the Celebrity Invitational on November 25th? Evely asked, leaning against the shore. Where? Montreal, Canada. I'm not sure. Qin Zhao couldn't give a definite answer. He had to ask Fei Lai's opinion. November 25th would be the start of winter in Canada. The temperature was 20 degrees lower than in LA. If Fei Lai wasn't willing to go, Qin Zhao didn't want to leave her side. It wasn't that Qin Zhao had to stick to Fei Lai. She was pregnant now. Qin Zhao wanted to stay by her side and take care of her. Besides, his girlfriend was pregnant, and he was staying at home. He went out to watch another women's competition. No matter how he thought about it, it was not a good thing. If Fei Lai was interested in going to Canada for a vacation, Qin Zhao would go. If she wasn't, Qin Zhao wouldn't go either. Okay. If you want to go, call me in advance. I'll reserve a ticket for you. Okay. Qin Zhao nodded. When he returned home, Qin Zhao found Fei Lai moving the wine. Fei Lai, what are you doing? Hurry up and go upstairs. Qin Zhao quickly stopped her. I saw that it's been here for a long time, so I think it should be ready. Leave the heavy work to me in the future. If I'm not home, let King Kong do it. It's strong, Qin Zhao said. Step back. When you open the wine for the first time, it'll release some gases that aren't good for the human body. There's also a small chance that it'll explode. Fei Lai looked at Qin Zhao. She felt that he was being too careful. Ever since she got pregnant, Qin Zhao had been a bit overprotective of her. Actually, she wasn't that weak. She didn't need any special care. Qin Zhao opened a barrel of wine. The fragrance filled the air. So fragrant. Qin Zhao took a deep breath. Next was filtering and bottling. Generally, high-grade wines needed to be filtered for a second time before they could be bottled. Qin Zhao didn't have to teach the inferior demons these steps. They probably knew better than Qin Zhao what to do. In the next half a day, Qin Zhao, Fei Lai, and the family started to work around the wine. Fei Lai wanted to do her part, so she also helped during the bottling process. The inferior demons were anxious. Not only did Fei Lai steal their work, she didn't do it as well as they did. But they didn't dare to speak. Qin Zhao's murderous gaze. If they said anything more, Qin Zhao would stuff them into the toilet. Qin Zhao bought the bottles. They were regular wine bottles. Each bottle was about 750 milliliters. Chapter 858. Planting Trees. These 2 days, Fei Lai had fallen in love with planting trees again. Now, the plants around the house were quite dense. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai had also realized Robio's original idea of covering the house with a few meters of land. Eugenist's control over the soil had extended to every square meter of land. He could distribute nutrients to every inch of soil so that all the plants could receive sufficient nutrients. However, because of the new land area, there was still a large piece of land that was abandoned. As Fei Lai's belly gradually bulged, her stamina dropped too. Qin Zhao and King Kong were in charge of plowing the land while the kids dug holes. Fei Lai planted the saplings again. This time, she mainly planted beech and oak trees. When these two plants matured, they would have very beautiful tree shapes. At the same time, they wouldn't be too dense, leaving some light for the forest. In the future, it wouldn't be too hard for him and Fei Lai to play in the forest. After half a day, the family had only planted half an acre of land. There were only around 20 trees in total. Of course, the underlings would take care of the rest. Other than planting trees, Qin Zhao also planned to build a wine cellar in his house. Of course, he would let the underlings build it too. However, the 10 underlings in the house clearly weren't enough to build a wine cellar. So, Qin Zhao chose 10 new underlings. At noon, Qin Zhao received a call from Winip. Qin, did you make the wine yourself again? Winip asked. Yes, why? Give me 1,000 bottles and sell them in my supermarket, Winip said. Qin Zhao smiled bitterly. He hadn't thought about making money from selling wine. There was a limited amount of wine. There were only around 1,000 bottles. Those who gave gifts would give the rest to the guests. They definitely wouldn't be able to finish it, but if they sold it, a few hundred bottles was too little. Plus, he and Phalai had worked so hard to make the wine. He didn't think that selling it for tens of thousands of dollars was worth their effort. Chen, my friends really like your wine. They're willing to buy it for $60,000 per bottle. Chen Zhao almost choked. $60,000 per bottle? That's right, $60,000 per bottle. They really like your wine. Not everyone was willing to spend a few $1,000,000 for the purple brew. As long as the quality of the wine was good, it would be popular. Even some middle-class families would be willing to buy it. There's too little of this wine. Phalai and I only brewed 1,000 bottles. We've given more than 200 bottles to our friends, so there's only about 800 left. We also have to keep some for ourselves and entertain guests. You treat your guests with this kind of wine? Winnip was going crazy. The last time she used this wine to entertain a few business partners, she didn't expect them to like this wine so much. Everyone was asking if there was any way to buy this wine. This also made her see a business opportunity. She felt that this was another way to attract customers into her supermarket. After all, Mara's supermarket was now very famous, and the world's best wine was always on display in her supermarket. Of course, after that day, Winnip didn't open another bottle. Lauren, Howard, Kareem, and Kane complained that she didn't even want to drink it herself. But Qin Zhao had actually left a few hundred bottles at home. This wasn't extravagance. This was squandering. If you keep 50 bottles, you might not finish it in a year, right? In Winnip's opinion, Qin Zhao and Phalai couldn't drink a bottle every day. After all, it wasn't beer that they could drink every day. Beer was for the enjoyment, while wine was for the atmosphere. If Qin Zhao and Phalai had a candlelight dinner, they might not finish it even after opening a bottle. Therefore, there was more than enough to keep 50 bottles. At least, that was what Winnip thought. I still have to entertain guests. I have a lot of guests at home. I'm not talking to you. I'll call Phalai. A while later, Phalai came to Qin Zhao's side. Chen, I plan to sell 500 bottles of wine in Mom's supermarket. Why? Phalai looked at Qin Zhao. I haven't even contributed to the family. Qin Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Darling, you're thinking too much. I've never cared about this. We're a family. Is there a need to care about who earns more and who earns less? Phalai looked at Qin Zhao stubbornly. This might be her only chance to increase the family's income. Phalai felt that she should insist. Fine, Qin Zhao replied helplessly. Actually, he also felt that 700 or 800 bottles of wine were too much. It was really too much. In the end, he still had to give it away. Since Phalai had this thought, he just let her have it. Dad, I'm back. Ken sat down on a chair. What's so fragrant? Is it this wine? It's the wine Chen brewed himself. Have a sip. Bant enjoyed a mouthful. I don't drink wine, Ken said, unconcerned. I didn't drink wine before either, Ken said. But I've completely fallen in love with wine now, Bant said. You really don't want a glass? Is it really that good? Ken knew that his father was like him. He usually only drank whiskey, vodka, or beer. He always looked down on wine. Ken was also influenced by his father, so he never liked wine. But how did his father fall in love with wine in less than half a month? Of course. You've definitely never tasted such good wine before. It's just wine. It's not like I've never tasted it before. How good can it be? Ken was about to pick up the bottle when Bant stopped him. Stop. I'm going to enjoy it slowly. Bant poured Ken a glass and Ken drank it in one gulp. Instantly, the rich wine aroma filled his mouth. Ken felt that all the cells in his mouth had come alive, greedily absorbing the wine. His lips and teeth were filled with the lingering taste of the grapes. Too beautiful, truly too beautiful. Dad, give me another glass. Asshole, do you know how to drink wine? You can't drink it like this. You need to savor it slowly. Bant was an uncouth man, but he actually said something like savoring wine. If Ken had never tasted wine like this before, he would probably think that his father had been replaced. How did Chin brew wine? I've never tasted such good wine before. It's mainly because of his grapes. When they ripened last time, he sent some to us. Unfortunately, you weren't home. Your mom and I finished 5 kilograms of grapes in 2 days. Don't tell me you guys eat grapes as your main food? Ken's eyes almost popped out. 5 kilograms of grapes in 2 days? Just then, Ken's phone rang. Hello, it's Ken. Ken, the boss needs a car. Come over immediately. Chapter 859. Ken was now a chauffeur for a rich man. Today, he had sneaked back from his busy schedule. After snatching a bottle of wine from Bant, Ken happily drove to work. Hello, Mr. Rosario, Ken greeted as he watched his boss get into the car. To Beverly Hills. When Rosario got in the car, he also took a bottle of red wine. Suddenly, Rosario saw a bottle of wine on the front passenger seat. What wine is that? Mr. Rosario, I just went home. My father's friend gave it to me. Pfft. It doesn't even have a brand. Rosario's tone was somewhat mocking. Do you know Valandru Winery? Or Marag Winery? I don't know. Ken, you don't even know these famous wineries. Why are you drinking red wine like others? Rosario picked up the wine he'd brought. Do you know how much this wine costs? I don't. $20,000. 90 years from Valandru Winery. There are less than 1,000 bottles in the market every year. That's called red wine, understand? Ken chuckled. The first rule of being someone else's chauffeur was not to argue with his boss. He indeed didn't know much about wine, but he liked Qin Zhao's wine. Ken had always been grateful to Qin Zhao. Back then, Qin Zhao had saved him, dragged him out of the fire, and even helped him save his life. Moreover, their families had always been close. Their families often visited each other too. In Ken's eyes, Qin Zhao was much wealthier than his boss. As for his boss, Ken knew him well. Rosario was actually just a nouveau riche. He was in the transportation business. He had 10 trucks under him and over 10 million in assets. However, after Rosario became rich, he started to learn from the upper class. He would attend rich people's parties or drink red wine like others. After arriving at a villa in Beverly Hills, Ken waited at the door. Judging from his posture, Rosario was probably going to a party. Rosario entered the villa. There were already many people inside. Mr. Mayor. Mays was the owner of this villa and also the organizer of this party. He was also someone Rosario wanted to curry favor with. Mays was the owner of a local appliance manufacturer in Los Angeles. If Rosario could get Mayor's order, then his company's business would increase by at least 30%. Hi, Rosario, you're here. Come in and have a seat. Mays treated Rosario coldly. He patted Rosario on the shoulder and turned around to leave. Mays had always looked down on Rosario. He had never thought of Rosario as belonging to his own class. Because Rosario used to be a truck driver. Rosario stopped Mays. Mr. Mays, I bought this for you. It's a 90-year-old wine from the Valandru Chateau. It's very hard to find in the market. Mays picked up the wine Rosario had given him and had a look. He couldn't help but sneer. Rosario, do you know red wine? I occasionally study it. Then do you know that the red wine made from the Valandru Chateau uses white du Cabernet Sauvignon? Because the white du Cabernet Sauvignon grows on the red soil in the suburbs of Paris, the soil there has a higher alkaline amino group, so the white du Cabernet Sauvignon absorbs it. This is also the reason why the red wine made from white du Cabernet Sauvignon wine has a special taste. However, if it's fermented for too long, it'll ruin the taste. That's why the best vintage is 96. Although the price is 20% higher by 1 year, the amino acid content also increases year by year, causing the taste to be more astringent. A 90-year-old wine can't be drunk anymore. If you want me to keep it, I have plenty of wine in my cellar. If you want me to drink it, I'm afraid you'll make me vomit on the spot." May's words made Rosario's face turn red. He couldn't say a word. Rosario didn't know anything about red wine. He only remembered a few expensive wine brands. In his opinion, the older the red wine, the more expensive it was, the better it would taste. Although he couldn't taste it himself. Even at home, he preferred vodka, brandy, or whiskey to red wine. If it weren't for social engagements, he wouldn't even spend $20,000 on a bottle of wine. "Forget it, you meant well. Come with me, I'll show you the true charm of wine," Mayers said casually, as if those harsh words weren't from him. "Come with me, I'll show you the true charm of wine." Although Mays looked down on Rosario, he liked to feel superior to people like him. Mays led Rosario into the hall. At this time, there were already many people in the hall. Mays clapped his hands lightly, signaling for the guests to quiet down. "My friends, I invited you all here today to share a bottle of wine that I obtained with you." Mays glanced at Rosario out of the corner of his eye, and Rosario instantly blushed. Mays casually placed the bottle of wine that Rosario had given him aside and asked the servant to bring him a bottle of wine. "Huh! Why is there no logo? Which winery is this wine from? Is this a bar like Sacramento's Mara Supermarket?" Mays glanced at the guests. He didn't expect that someone among his friends would recognize the wine. "Tora, does the supermarket sell this wine?" "Only in Sacramento's Mara Supermarket, and it's limited. Only 40 bottles are sold every month, and each bottle costs $60,000. There's no logo, only the number at the bottom." "Will people buy it?" someone asked. Hee. "Because the wine's made by the same person as Daydream." "Do you think no one will buy it?" Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Daydream? There was no one in America who didn't know about Daydream. It was a wine that created a miracle in the tourism industry of an entire city. A wine that was mythical. And now, they could drink the wine made by the same winemaker. No one thought that the $60,000 wasn't worth it. Instead, everyone was looking forward to it. "Do you know how much money I spent to buy this bottle of wine?" Mays looked at the crowd. "Wasn't it $60,000? Rosario asked. Everyone rolled their eyes. Since Mays said so, it must be more than $60,000. Moreover, one could imagine how crazy the demand would be after the first batch of nameless red wine was put on the shelves. Chapter 860. Rich people had a simple way of thinking. The rarer something was, the better it was. At that moment, everyone in the living room had the urge to grab a bottle of nameless red wine. It didn't matter if they knew wine or not. The wine might not be famous. However, the name of its creator was simply too famous. He was recognized as the world's best brewer. Because this winemaker had brewed the most perfect wine, Daydream. $1 billion wine. Daydream hadn't been sold. But no one could recognize the value of Daydream. The tourists that Daydream brought to Sacramento and the customers to Mara's supermarket were proof of the value of this bottle of wine. It was held every year at the Sacramento Stadium, and last time it was the first one. It attracted 3 million tourists from all over the world. What did that mean? Sacramento had a population of less than 500,000, but it received 3 million tourists. According to statistics, Sacramento's tourism revenue increased by at least $3 billion a year because of this wine. In the past, Sacramento's tourism revenue was in the millions. It wasn't even $10 million. But now, 200,000 to 300,000 people from all over the world went to Sacramento every day. That was why Daydream had been deified. The city of Sacramento also bought a huge insurance policy for Daydream. Although there was only one bottle of Daydream, the brewer of Daydream had brewed a new wine. No matter how it tasted, the name alone was worth $60,000. The moment Mays opened the cork, the aroma of the wine filled the air. Everyone was immersed in the aroma and couldn't pull themselves out. Everyone's body and mind were satisfied in that instant. It was as if the aroma alone was enough to make them savor it. Mays regretted it the moment he opened the bottle. This wine shouldn't be shared. He should have brought it for a drink in his spare time. But since he had invited them, he couldn't keep it. Everyone poured a glass of wine. Rosario didn't know that much. He only knew that it tasted good. The taste of this bottle of red wine was completely different from the wine he used to drink when he was a cultured person. It had the taste of wine, but it didn't have the stimulation of alcohol. Rosario actually felt the fragrance of spring flowers blooming in a glass of wine. Everyone's eyes were filled with splendor. Rosario thought to himself, as expected of a $200,000 bottle of wine. The taste of this wine was really memorable. This was a smell that could make people fall in love. Everyone stared at Mays, hoping that he would share the rest of the wine. However, it was clear that Mayer had no such intentions. Previously, he had invited them here to show off. But now, he regretted it. After Rosario left Mays' villa, he returned to his car. He was still savoring the taste of that glass of wine. "Mr. Rosario, where are we going now?" "Send me home," Rosario said in disappointment as he glanced at Mayer's villa. Maybe he should try his luck at Marla in Sacramento. Just then, Rosario saw the bottle of wine on the passenger seat again. Rosario saw the number 085 printed on the bottom of the wine. Rosario said, "Let me have a look at this bottle." He picked up the wine and looked at it carefully. "This is a gift from your father's friend." "Yes." "Have you drunk it before?" "Yes." "I don't usually like wine, but I like this wine. It's delicious. Can I open it?" "Huh? Here?" Ken was a little reluctant. After all, he wanted to enjoy it alone. However, Rosario was his boss, so he couldn't refuse. Rosario looked at the seal on the cork. It was exactly the same as the one on Mays's bottle. "Your father's friend is rich, right?" Yes, he is." Was it really a nameless wine? Rosario thought to himself. $200,000, sell it to me," Rosario said. "Huh? Boss. What did you say?" $200,000, sell it to me." Ken suddenly slammed on the brakes. The car stopped, and he turned to look at Rosario. "Boss, are you sure you know what you're talking about? You don't know the price of this wine, right?" I just remembered. It's called the Nameless Wine. I won't take advantage of you. It's originally sold at Mara Supermarket in Sacramento for $60,000, but it's limited to 40 bottles a month. It's hard to get, so I'll pay you $200,000. Are you selling it?" Of course he would sell it. Only an idiot wouldn't sell it. "Boss, you're not messing with me, are you?" Ken was excited, but he was also worried. Was the boss trying to trick him? Did his boss really know about wine? "I want to open it and check it first." If it's not the wine I want, I'll pay you $1,000. If it's the wine I want, $200,000. Rosario liked to show off, but perhaps because he used to drive a truck, he was more honest. He didn't plan to trick Ken. Plus, if Ken found out later, it would be troublesome. Rosario was not short of money, so he offered a price that he thought was fair. "Okay." Rosario took out a bottle opener out of nowhere and opened the cork in the car. Instantly, the aroma filled the entire car. Rosario immediately put the cork back in. That's right. It really was the Nameless Wine. He didn't expect to find a treasure. It really was the Nameless Wine. "Here's the check for $200,000. Ken was dumbfounded. He didn't expect Rosario to be so direct. "Boss, where did this wine come from?" "The world's best winemaker." Ken was confused. The world's best winemaker? Wasn't Chin a doctor? How did he become a winemaker? Do you know Daydream? Yeah, it's Sacramento's specialty. This wine is made by the same person as Daydream. Boss, you're not lying to me? Why would I lie to you? You don't even know wine, Rosario said in disdain. Ken's mind was in a mess. After sending Rosario home, he called his father. Dad, I just sold the wine I took from home. You *show, did you do drugs? Or do you need money? Tell me if you need money. Why did you sell the wine? I don't even have enough to drink and you're selling it? You asterisk shoal. Dad, do you know how much I sold it for? Chapter 861. Dad, I sold it for $200,000. Don't talk nonsense. I'm serious. I really sold it for $200,000. Bant's mouth was wide open, his face filled with shock. Dad, use your phone to search Mara Supermarket for nameless red wine. Bant started searching for related information. As expected, a lot of information and news popped up. 5 days ago, Mara Supermarket had put 40 bottles of wine on the shelves. They were specially approved by the Sacramento city government. They were sold out as soon as they went on sale. There was still a small amount circulating on the black market. The highest price was already close to $300,000. Ken, this nameless wine is Chen's gift to us? That's right. Bant's mind was in a mess. Mara Supermarket sold a bottle for $60,000. The average price on the black market was above $200,000. The highest was close to $300,000. Chen Zhao had given him 5 bottles. Including the one he'd already drunk and the one Ken had taken away, there were only 2 left. Bant didn't know what to say anymore. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to give him something so expensive as a gift either. Of course, he was also conflicted. Should he sell it or drink it? If he sold someone else's gift, it would be very rude. But if he drank it, it would be too extravagant. Anyway, Bant couldn't drink it. Bant called Chen Zhao. Hey Chen, did you make the wine in Mara Supermarket? Yeah, you know about it. Ken just took a bottle, but his boss bought it for $200,000. Bant smiled bitterly. Now that I know about it, I really don't know what to do. Since it's a gift to you, you have the right to choose, Chen Zhao said. But I suggest you don't sell it so quickly. As long as you keep it well, the longer it stays, the better it tastes. You can sell it when you need money in the future. Okay, I understand. Bant was very grateful. But tell Ken not to leak this news. Okay, I know. I'll tell Ken. Chun, do you think we should expand the vineyard? Don't expand. We're selling high-quality wine. The more we produce, the lower the price. The profit won't be as good as now, Chen Zhao said. Look at those wineries. They're all huge, but they only brew a limited amount each year. Fei Lai was overjoyed these few days. After all, it was her first time experiencing the joy of making money. The 40 bottles of red wine were sold out on the same day they were put on the shelves. $2,400,000, and the city of Sacramento gave him a tax break. This was also the result of Winnip's negotiation. Now, Winnip's attitude towards the Sacramento government was in a strong phase. Now, Sacramento had completely transformed into a tourist city, and all of this was brought about by Daydreams. As long as Daydream was in Winnip's hands, Sacramento would be in Winnip's hands. This wasn't just for show. The value of Daydream was no longer limited to its own value. The indirect economy of Daydreams had already exceeded its own value. Just as Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were lying on the chair, Zherlin stood up unsteadily. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both stunned. Zherlin can stand up now? But soon, little Zherlin's short legs bent, and she lay on the ground again. She could only stand up for a short while, but Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both very happy. Chen, why is the older the red wine, the better? Chen Zhao thought about it. Actually, that's a mistake. It's not that the older the better. In fact, the best storage time for most red wine is 3 to 8 months. Only a few wines need a longer fermentation period because of the grapes chosen. For example, our little Zherlin needs around 20 years to grow up, but Simba and Nana only need a few years to grow up. Some wineries use vines that have been cultivated for generations or even dozens of generations. Their vines are the winery's most precious assets. Usually, they're not allowed to leave. You can think of Zherlin's growth period from the fermentation of red wine. What else can you think of? There are too many things to compare. Chen Zhao said casually. For example. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He suddenly thought of a problem. Old Turtle had once said that Chen Zhao's magic power was at the bottleneck of ultimate transformation. Chen Zhao had always had a vague idea about this. But now, he suddenly thought of the fermentation process of wine. Was ultimate transformation similar to the fermentation of wine? If this was true, then he should consider how to ferment magic power. The process of ultimate transformation was the fermentation of magic power. Chen, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about what to eat tonight. Fei Lai rolled her eyes. Ever since the underlings came to the house, they hadn't worried about this. Chen Zhao had been thinking about how to ultimate transformation his magic power. He would ask Old Turtle later. At night, Chen Zhao entered the river map. Every time he entered the river map, Old Turtle was playing games, and he was always playing games with his avatar. Old Turtle, isn't the ultimate transformation similar to the fermentation of wine? Huh, you actually figured it out? It's such a simple question. Why did you have to hide it before and make me figure it out myself? Chen Zhao looked at Old Turtle, indignant. Don't novels say you have to figure it out yourself? Is there no other reason? No. Then how do I ferment the magic power in my body? Extreme environment, Old Turtle said. Extreme how? It's either extreme heat or extreme cold. But in most cases, if you're in these two extreme environments, you'll either be burned to death or frozen to death. The extreme you're talking about, don't tell me you're burning or throwing it into an icehouse. Look at Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. He mastered the fiery eyes in Taishang Laozi's alchemy furnace. You're getting more and more ridiculous. That's a myth and also a novel. You can also choose an environment one level lower. For example, go to the hottest or coldest place in the world and stay there for 3 to 5 years. Then the fermentation process will be complete. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Wait, I can create an extremely hot or extremely cold environment. Right here, in the river map. Since wine could be fermented in the river map, Old Turtle could cultivate here for thousands of years. Chen Zhao should be able to do the same, right? Most importantly, you're thinking about extreme heat? Or extreme cold? Is there a difference? Chapter 862. What's the exact difference? Chen Zhao asked. If you use extreme heat as your state, you'll be training your body with fire. You'll be invulnerable. Your body will be like iron and your heart will be like the sun, Old Turtle said. If you use extreme cold as your state, your heart will be like a blade and your mind will be like a sword. No inner demons will be born. Your energy will be like a rainbow and your power will be like frost. To be more direct, I don't understand. Extreme heat is training your body. Extreme cold is training your heart. Do you think body training is awesome? Chen Zhao said. At least you can feel the changes in your body with body training, but who knows if there will be any changes with heart training. Extreme cold training can prevent inner demons from growing, Old Turtle said. In the long run, extreme cold is more advantageous. That means extreme cold is better? You can't say that. If you don't have inner demons, you can't improve your state of mind. Fuck, is extreme heat better or extreme cold better? Either is fine. Can I train in both ice and fire? Chen Zhao asked. Taoism walks on the balance of yin and yang, but in most cases, no one can succeed. Okay, since others can't, I won't go either. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao speechlessly. When he heard the first half, he thought Chen Zhao would say that he wanted someone else to follow Byung. In the end, Chen Zhao admitted defeat. Actually, it's not completely impossible. How? First is the time limit. 1,000 years ago in the human world, the river diagram was collected by a Taoist. I watched him cultivate step by step, but when he reached ultimate, he was already 100 years old. His spiritual power was the best in the world, but his body was almost withered. He couldn't handle the ice and fire dual training at all. He also couldn't achieve yin and yang balance before his death. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao. You're different. You're young and your body is stronger than others. You also have the river diagram. Time isn't a limit for you, so you have a better chance of surviving the yin and yang baptism. Are there risks? Chen Zhao asked. There are risks, but the benefits definitely outweigh the risks. Chen Zhao thought about it. How long? Depends on what package you want. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. What combo do you offer? I'll create an extremely hot or extremely cold environment for you, Old Turtle said. It'll take around 100 years. 100 years in the river diagram? Did that mean a month had passed in the outside world? No, if I disappear for a month, Phalai will go crazy. Then I'll use the heavenly fire and mystic ice to help you transform. How long will this take? Estimated 10 years. Can we stop halfway? Sure. Then use this, Chen Zhao said. How do I do it? I'll first create a barrier of heavenly fire and mysterious ice. Old Turtle's Phalai was countless times stronger than Chen Zhao's. The vicissitudes of life could only be in his thoughts. First, huge pillars of mystical ice fell from the sky. These pillars of mystical ice were of different sizes and lengths. They formed a semicircle within a radius of several thousand zhang. Following that, the ground began to burn with raging flames, connecting with the 1,000 zhang-long profound ice barrier. Ice and fire formed a ring. Half of it was ice, and the other half was flames. If one looked down from above, it looked like a Taiji diagram. As soon as Chen Zhao approached the flames, he felt a wave of heat. Chen Zhao wanted to change directions. When he approached the ice, he felt a bone-piercing chill again. What do I do? If I go in, I'll be frozen into ice or barbecued. Use your spiritual power to protect your body first. Then go in from the direction of the mystic ice. After half a circle, you'll enter the other half of the heavenly fire. Run as fast as you can. Chen Zhao glanced at Old Turtle. Are you sure this will work? This is just the outermost layer of cold and heat. The closer you get to the core of the circle, the stronger the cold and heat. If you can't even handle this bit of temperature difference, you should change to a normal extremely hot and cold environment. Chen Zhao glanced at the entrance and then at Old Turtle. So I'll be done after running one circle? Ha! In the next 10 years, you have to keep running. When you completely transform your spiritual power, you'll be considered to have completed ultimate transformation. Chen Zhao activated all the spiritual power in his body and started covering his skin. When he approached the mystic ice field again, it wasn't as unbearable as before. Suddenly, Old Turtle pushed Chen Zhao from behind. Chen Zhao didn't have time to prepare at all. He fell into the mystic ice field. Just then, the entrance to the mystic ice field closed. Run if you don't want to freeze to death. When he entered, the bone-piercing chill attacked him again. Old Turtle, fuck you. Chen Zhao started running. Chen Zhao ran as fast as he could. He didn't know how fast he could run. He had to leave the mystic ice field as soon as possible. Chen Zhao only took 1.5 minutes to cover the distance of 3 kilometers. Just then, a wave of heat surged from the place where the mystic ice field connected. Chen Zhao didn't have time to think. He dove into the heavenly fire field. For a moment, Chen Zhao felt warm from the heavenly fire field. The coldness was gone. But the next moment, he couldn't take the scorching heat anymore. The human body reacted more to heat than cold. Chen Zhao felt like his hair was about to ignite. Chen Zhao sped up and passed through the burning heavenly fire field. Another wave of coldness attacked him. Where's the exit? Where's the exit that was supposed to connect here? Old Turtle, you old asterisk shoal, you blocked the exit? You want to slack off after just one round? Old Turtle's voice came from outside. Chen Zhao ran while yelling. He charged into the mystic ice field again and ran another round. He passed through the heavenly fire field and then the mystic ice field. The cycle repeated again and again. Chen Zhao could endure it physically, but he couldn't keep up with the consumption of spiritual power. Without the protection of spiritual power, Chen Zhao would have to face the mystic ice and heavenly fire directly. Finally, on the 8th round, Qin Zhao's spiritual power was completely used up. He hadn't finished the 8th round yet. Qin Zhao could only brace himself and sprint forward. He finally saw the exit. Qin Zhao rushed out of the exit and collapsed on the ground. His body was covered in frostbite and burns. Why do I have to torture myself? Qin Zhao wanted to cry but had no tears. It's okay. You'll get used to it slowly. Rest for a day and then continue. Old Turtle, why do I feel like you're so passionate about me? Because I'm bored. Qin Zhao suspected that Old Turtle had thought of this method just to torture him. Qin Zhao's recovery speed was quite good. He recovered the next day. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.